Sure. Okay, so Gregory Braille is gonna be late. Phil Burton. I see him.
Here.
There he is.
Okay.
Tony Carrasco.
Here.
In-Yong Cho. Not here. Larry Klein.
Here.
Nadia Nayak.
Here.
Keith Reckdahl will be late. Dave Shen.
Here.
Carrie Templeton.
Here.
Okay, great.
All right, welcome everybody. Okay, I think we can start with our staff updates. So Ripon, do you want to just update everyone on what we were discussing about the AECOM stuff that's coming?
So brief updates that we will be making all the changes that we have recommended on the matrix and fact sheets that the XCAP required and should be available tomorrow. And I'll forward as soon as I receive it from the AECOM. If there are any changes that are desired today, then we can also pass on that and make it all one compiled update. And we'll also update it on the city's webpage, Connecting Palo Alto webpage, I mean. Regarding the compiled files, I have already compiled all the large files as well as the reduced size files which are available, and we can send it to the editor when she comes on board so that she can put in an appendix as requested by the chair. And I think those are, and any language regarding the long-term maintenance was also sent to the chair and was probably included in the update today.
Yeah, I sent it to Dave.
Yeah, that concludes my staff updates. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And then I just want to draw attention, we were able to get from staff as well, there was a letter that was sent from the superintendent of Palo Alto Unified to our city manager and the city council. That letter doesn't really change anything that we're doing. It's simply going to be added to the appendix, but I did want to note it. It is on today's agenda as an attachment, as attachment G. And if you didn't have a chance to look at it, you can take a look at it. It obviously doesn't change our deliberations at all. We're just going to put it in there. So it's more informational for council.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, for adding that.
Yeah. Okay, and I think with that, we can go to oral communications and see if we have any members of the public who'd like to speak. It looks like we've got one hand raised. Roland, weirdly, Roland, you appear twice on my thing, but I'm sure one of you wants to speak. So since we've got time in today's meeting, you can have 3 minutes. Go for it.
Okay, and Ripon, do you have a moment to get a timer going? You're muted, Ripon.
I'm working on it right now.
Okay. Perfect, thank you.
Give us just a moment.
Yep.
Okay.
Does it see my whole screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen. You can he can have 3 minutes because he's the only speaker, so.
Okay, Mr. Lebrun, you should be able to unmute and start speaking.
Thank you for unmuting the right one, much appreciated. So this beautiful picture you're looking at one day, hopefully will be on a brand new dividend station. But anyway, I first want to give you an update on the shenanigans going on at the VGA. So it started off last year where the old board appointed the chair and the vice chair, neither of which is qualified for the job as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, so this year, the new board meeting were basically presented with the chair and the vice chair, and right now there is nothing you can do about it. Now you may have so the chair is the vice mayor of Sunnyvale, and the vice chair is the vice mayor of San Jose. But you may have recalled that I mentioned that President Wasserman had basically indicated that he wanted to appoint Supervisor Simian to the VTA board. Well, that did not happen because the new chair actually appointed its old fellow Sunnyvale council member, Otto Lee, who is now the new supervisor replacing Supervisor Cortese. And since there are only 5 supervisors, well, guess what? Now Supervisor Simitian cannot get on the board. So a legislation that would increase number of supervisors from 5 to 7 would be really good. But anyway, so that's what happened to that. Now the great news is that at your Palo Alto City Council on Monday night, you actually decided to basically elect former Mayor Pat Burt who will go on the VTA board. Well, that's a total game changer. And hopefully they're not going to figure out another way to block Pat Burt from getting on the board either. Well, we'll see what happens. But in closing, I want to give you an update on what's going on to the BAR project. So on Monday, they actually went ahead to the FTA and submitted the application. And that gets really interesting because the funding is just not there. They've got, they basically over-allocated to the measure rate to the extent of 220%. And the reason is very simple. They borrowed $1 billion 10 years ago. They paid back $200 million last 10 years, and now they've got 15 years left to pay the other $800 million. At that point in time, their debt service is going to be 50% of measure A every year, which so approximately $100 million. On top of that, they need another $14 million that the board committed for the bus and the light rail, which basically leaves them $60 million a year. Times 15, guess what, $900 million, and they committed $2 billion. So that got a serious problem. And by the way, I got an FOIA up to the FDA to see exactly what it is that the VTA submitted in their BART application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, Nadia, for some reason my video is not working, but I am here.
Okay, yeah, it's weird. We can't see anything, but
I don't know why, because I played with the settings, but
okay.
it's just not showing.
Just know that you may have to interrupt to be able to, if you've got questions and stuff. I don't know if I can see you if you raise your hand. Do you want to try digitally raising your hand and see if I can see
Yeah,
that?
let me do that.
I think it's
how do I
down
do that?
at the very bottom where share screen shows up and stuff.
Yeah,
You
give me a
should see
second.
raising.
Yeah. No, I don't see anything about raising my hand.
If you hover your mouse at the bottom of your Zoom window where you see us all, you should have participants, then share screen, then record, and then raise hand.
Yeah, you know, I just don't see it. I'll just have, you know what, I'm going to drop out and you'll rejoin.
Okay, sounds good. We'll delay a little bit. I did want to ask either Philip or Ripon, are you guys, I thought I saw something on Twitter where Supervisor Simidian was still actually on VTA. And so I'm sort of confused. Do you guys have any update? Do we know? I thought it was Cindy Chavez and Supervisor Simidian. Does anybody know? It's okay if the answer is no.
I'm not well versed with that. I'm
Okay.
not sure if Philip is in another meeting also, probably at the same time.
Yeah,
So,
no worries. Okay, no worries. I'll find it another one.
but if we find an update, we will update at the next meeting.
Sure, it's okay. It's
Thank you.
just curious. It's not really relevant for XCAP's thing. Okay, all right. With that, we are on item number 4, which is our member updates and working group updates. And actually, I will. We can talk about. We're on our final. We're nearing the end. So at this point, like we said last week, we're at the point where we're expecting everyone to read all of the chapters, and I understand there's a lot of them. And sort of register any complaints you have with substantive things. If you've got small edits and stuff, you can always, we'll take those. But hopefully the editor will catch those. The biggest thing is just substantive things at this point. So wanted to know if there's any. Does anybody want to? Are there any other kind of section problems that have come up or missing chapters, or you're not sure where to put something that we want to address before we get into the actual substantive stuff? I don't see anything. Phil, we can see that you've rejoined, but we still can't see you.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There are 2 possible explanations, neither of which is going to get fixed right away. So
No worries. Okay.
we'll just have to
let you
limp.
know.
I'll just limp along for this meeting, and
Okay.
I'll speak up if I need to.
Okay, cool. Okay, so it doesn't seem like we've got anything on item 4, so we can move right to number 5, which is writing and editing of the final report.
Nadia, on item 4.
Yeah.
I mean, the general overall position of this paper is that we've not come to any suggestions to the council that all of us like, obviously. So in my opinion here, and it's from participation in projects of much smaller scale, we're sort of seen a flash of light here and there, but we don't know the picture yet. And I think we're in a place where we've gathered a lot of data, and we've not really coalesced that data into something that'll be good for the neighborhoods, good for the city businesses, like more transportation, but we've not got there yet. That's my general impression of where we are. And there's a long way to go, I think. And we've seen the data, but we've not coalesced on good solutions. And I agree with the Palo Alto Unified School District that we shouldn't take a position on any one of them. There may be preferences, maybe we saw some light somewhere, but we've not pushed it all this data together to come up with solutions. So that's where we are, is my general overall view of where we are. And
I hear you. I think the focus of our report is summarizing XCAP's process, and I think that the report hopefully reflects that, right? I think we did come to a vote, at least for Churchill, you know, whether it wasn't unanimous, but it was a 6-3, and that's what the report represents. We could not come to a decision for South Palo Alto, and the report reflects that. I think the school district's position is sort of separate from ours. You know, they're thinking about what they're responding to city council. They're not really talking to us, right? Because we're not really addressed in that letter. And so I think, you know, as staff and others have said, our job is to just, this is what we're presenting to council, and council from there decides what they want to do. So I hope you think that the report fairly and accurately represents the process that we've had.
Yes, it represents it very well.
Okay.
I was just evaluating where we were, rather than saying it doesn't represent us. It does represent us very well.
Yep. Anybody else have anything? Okay, I think with that, then we can move to section 5. I wanted to open it up to see if there's somebody who wants to lead or go first, or if there are thoughts on which section you'd like to tackle first. The Churchill section and the Meadow Charleston section were relatively the same, just some kind of small additions, I think. I think the two newest substantive things were probably the dissenting opinion, and then the history of the underpass, which really was, there's a section that goes in the appendix, and it's more kind of a history of what happened with that. But I'll throw those two out if we would like to start with those, but I'm open to hearing suggestions of where we want to begin.
Nadia,
Yeah.
if it's up to me, I would start with the top and work to the bottom, document in order, and then top to bottom in each document.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Well, so who wants to, hold on, because I don't have my listing of the documents in that particular order in front of me, and I'm not on my regular computer. So if somebody has that, we can take it from there. If somebody has a table of contents, Dave, do you have it? And can you share your screen and then we can see? I think the first one is the introduction chapter, right? That's where it starts. Or executive summary would be the first one. Do we have anything substantive on executive summary?
I have a bunch of comments. Some of them are cleanup just in the service of clear writing, which I'm a stickler about.
Okay.
It's got to bring too many open windows. Excuse me for a second.
Sure.
All right, I'm just going to reopen the window because this isn't working. Give me a second. I'm sorry.
Okay, no
I
worries.
thought I was going to pre-open all the windows, but that didn't work.
It's okay.
Did you want me to share this or not?
Yeah, actually, well, it sounds like he wants to start with the executive summary, so we can just, I can see if I can open that on my side. Hold on.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing then.
Perfect. Okay, yeah.
Okay, I've got the executive summary open whenever.
Okay, if you want to share your screen, let's see if that works.
You know, I will try. I don't know if that's going to work, but give me a second to see if I can. Yeah, I can actually.
Cool.
Yeah, what do you know? Can you all see
Yes, we can.
what looks, the application, the document title is at the very top on the banner, and the application is called Nitro Pro. Can you all
Yep.
see that?
We can see it.
Okay.
We
Well,
only
this is-
see that window, which is good.
Sure, that's good. Okay, so in this, the way Nitro Pro works, comments are like this, and crossouts you can see. So again, this is in the service of clear writing. That sentence where I crossed out some words, it's a little awkward. And so I've done a lot of edits in the service of cleaning up awkward construction. So we'd say an employee designated by the by the PAUSD, and a representative, instead of a person, a representative of the Charleston Meadows neighborhood. By the way, I'll be happy to mail these PDFs.
Yeah, I think it might be easier. So I think those are good for helping clarify writing, but I think what we really want to talk about during our meeting where we're all sitting here is really kind of like, is there something that you fundamentally disagree with or we got
Oh,
wrong?
all right. Okay, so I will, let me just see if there is anything I fundamentally disagree with, as opposed to clarifying writing. Yeah, okay. I guess I disagree on the third page about an almost totally new study,
Okay.
because we will need to do some kind of a redesign for 4-track systems, but it's not a start from scratch study by any means. Most of
Okay.
the environmental impacts would be the same. Maybe the order of maybe the magnitude changed a little bit. So I think that's overstating the case.
Okay.
And actually, staff would completely concur with that. So
Yep.
yeah, so we would, I think Ripon probably has some suggestions for some language there, but yeah, I would totally agree with that.
Okay. If a 4-track system is needed,
And all you can say that all these alternatives should be should need to will need revision or taken into consideration the 4-track system for the when the new design efforts are taken into account.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, in every
Is-
case, you'd have to redesign something.
Yeah.
But the fundamentals of the traffic flow, the environmental impacts, the property takings, not start from scratch.
What
Yeah.
language are you suggesting? It seems to me that you're underestimating it, Phil, because obviously a 4-track system would require more takings of property, just for one example. And what it would do to the traffic flow, I don't know at this point.
Well,
That's what we have-
4 tracks, assuming they fit within the right of way, simply mean that you have 4 tracks within the right of way.
And I understand what it means, but you could have a 4-track system that is not necessarily totally within the right of way, and the Caltrain / high-speed rail people would have to acquire some adjacent properties. How do you know we don't need that?
because I would agree with Phil. They technically fit. So 150-foot right away is more than enough space for 4 tracks. In fact, Caltrain is still saying that they can fit 4 tracks in 72 feet or whatever they have it.
Yeah, that
at
would be a little
Churchill.
tight, but they could do it. They might
They
need a
could-
speed restriction if it's only 72 feet.
Yeah, but technically within that right away, it does fit. So, but I think the point stands that the alternatives will need revision. I wrote down this is what I got from, if 4-track system is needed, the alternatives will need revision to take 4 tracks into account. Now I'm thinking if we add the word significant, if you add a 4-track viaduct, it fits within the 150 feet. And I'm thinking South Palo Alto now. Trench is a different story because I don't know.
But Chair, you can
Not-
maybe say that.
Sorry, Ripon, go ahead.
Go ahead, Tony. I'll add
So
my.
yeah, my view is sort of like Larry's is, and I'm talking just from a feel and look and construction point of view. It's a very different system, different feel to go under a viaduct with four tracks above than a viaduct with two. And I can explain the natural light angles that make the difference. It's much more different with 4 tracks than with 2. And so I think from my point of view, it's a significant difference.
So I was suggesting maybe we can say it is recommended that these alternatives be further revised and reviewed to incorporate 4-track system before pursuing this.
Yeah, they'll need some necessary amount of revision, which might depend on the alternatives.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it's not zero, but totally new is overstating the case. Right. And I'm happy with saying contingent upon the design, specific design. I'm putting on my old civil engineering hat here.
Okay, so how's this? I apologize. I'm realizing I don't have a way to sort of show you guys the sentence that I'm proposing, so you'll all have to sort of follow along. But
should I stop? Should I stop sharing my screen?
No, because I don't have. You're looking at a PDF version, and I need the soft copy, and finding that right now is just going to take longer than it should. So I think if we can, it's one sentence. I think we can do it. But I'm thinking if a 4-track system is needed, and the alternatives will need significant revision. Will need revision to take 4 tracks into account. How's that?
Not good enough. What I want to get across is that this is going to cost a significant amount of money.
Okay.
And staff has any guess as to if we've spent X so far on AECOM and its colleagues, what percentage of X would we have to spend on the 4-track alternative?
You mean incrementally, Larry?
Yes. What new money?
Additional money.
Yes.
Well, I will also add that if 4 tracks are needed, they have to pay for this. That's actually technically, that's technically what's required. So I hear you that it would be more money, but it's also true that they would be responsible for paying for that.
Besides the payment issue, I think it's just a different feel if you do 4 tracks.
Yep. All right, Larry, do you have a better proposed sentence?
Screen back up, please.
Oh, it wasn't up. I'm sorry. I thought I had.
No,
it up.
you're there. You just scrolled. You're there.
Oh.
Phil, just scroll back up a little bit. You're on page 4 and it was on page 3.
What did I do? I seem to be marvelously good today at screwing things up.
We can see your screen and we're just seeing page 4. If you can scroll within the PDF.
Oh, I see. Okay. I'm sorry.
There you go.
About a significantly revised XCAP type study would likely have to be undertaken.
I'm fine with that.
But that's
I'm good with that too.
Yeah, I think that for a trench, that would be the most amount of rework necessary because of the impact of widening a trench. But if we did the underpass, let's say at Meadow Charleston, you're talking about a wider bridge over the underpass, over the roadway, and setting back a little bit further the beginnings of the down ramps.
Yep, which still could have property impacts.
It could, it might.
Ripon, what were you going to say?
I was saying, thinking that we could say something like, it is recommended that these alternatives be further revised and reviewed to incorporate 4-track systems if needed before pursuing the selected alternative.
I'm not sure we're saying that. I don't want them necessarily to go study 4 tracks before they move ahead with something. That's not necessarily what I think we're recommending. That's what that sentence would say.
Yeah, besides, we may be losing negotiating leverage with Caltrain if we do that.
No, but only for the selected alternative that we would have to include some kind of provisions to it, not designing the whole thing, but just to make sure that it is provisioned to design for future whenever it's needed.
But I'm not, so you're saying if the council chooses something, they should also look at the potential for 4 tracks. And we're saying they can't choose unless they understand the implications of all of the versions of 4 tracks. So I'm not sure what I would agree.
In general, it's going to have, similar impacts, but a little bit more amplified when you look into the 4-track versus 2-track in the same area. So
not for trench.
Correct.
But trench would be a huge difference.
Right. And so I think being able to say what Larry, so if Larry's saying if 4 tracks are needed, a significant revised XCAP study would likely have to be undertaken.
I would not say XCAP study, maybe review of the existing the alternatives, because that's up to council if they would like to do an XCAP study or if they want to do it.
Okay.
No, it's an XCAP type. It doesn't mean the same XCAP or a new group of 9 citizens. It just means this type of study. And whether the council does it all on its own or refers it doesn't really make any difference. I don't understand where you're coming from, Ripon.
I mean, if we already have like say for, like on Churchill Avenue, we already have the major factors that of that the implications are that we have already determined, and based on that we have looked at. Now if we go with four tracks versus 2 tracks, the impacts may be further amplified based on the alternative a little bit more. So if it's a closure, 4-track will have very limited impact. If it is partial underpass, it may have very minor impact. Now, if it's
or maybe not so minor, but not like you. Okay, so Ripon, can I ask you this? If Caltrain were to insist on a 4-track design, would we necessarily, or we or some future group, select a different alternative for one crossing? Or would we simply refine the existing design and consider the impacts?
I would think that that we would look at the similar design. Like if the proposal is the closure on Churchill, and that's what City Council is looking into, then there's going to be no difference between a 4-track versus 2 tracks. That's what I'm thinking of.
Right, but I think in the South you have this problem where the cheapest alternative is a hybrid. And I'm not sure that a 4-track hybrid, if the roads have to go further back and it has more land impacts, if that's necessarily what they'd be okay with.
But to look at relativity between the different alternatives, it would be similarly impacted. So a trench would be really high in cost right now, and the impact for 4-tracking will be really high on that one.
No, but I think actually I think what you're underestimating is it depends on the shoe fly track as well, right? Because if they're having to construct in the entire right of way, where the shoe fly track gets pushed to could be much further.
But only thing is that they are not constructing it at this time. It's only that they are designing it for it right now.
Okay, so I'm okay with the sentence that says if 4 tracks are needed, a significant revised XCAP type study, so not XCAP, it's similar to XCAP's thing, would likely have to be undertaken.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's they're very supportable.
Yeah, me too.
And it doesn't necessarily deviate from what you're saying, Ripon, because all we're saying is that you're going to have to go further on those designs based on whatever you decide that you're going to do. It's not necessarily supporting that an XCAP needs to exist.
Yeah, but if it's a similar committee, then that means the 24 months process, right?
Oh, I don't think it would be that. I think that's why we're using the word type.
Yeah, I think just by saying an XCAP type study, there's an implication there that there'd be a group founded, a community group founded that would review it. And I think depending on where we're at with, the study or proceeding with a project, and whether we've already prepared for or anticipated the possibility of having 4 tracks. I think that this language really seems like the implication is the XCAP should reconvene or some other group should reconvene, and we're going to spend, I don't know, even 24 months maybe is conservative, figuring out again or starting over the process. So I
think one thing we should think about though is that if 4 tracks are needed, this is on high-speed rail and STIME. And And if high-speed rail is in the driver's seat, hell yeah, we probably want to ask for an XCAP type process, because if they give us an expedited process, we're not likely to get any of the things that we care about, not even the least, which is would be the color of the
Precisely.
concrete.
You,
There-
dear staff members, you guys are not being politically sensitive to how Palo Alto operates. If a 4-track system is imposed on us, the citizens will be screaming for it to be properly studied in depth.
Yeah.
Right.
it's-
Yeah, I agree
guess-
with Larry. I think Nadia and some of us have been asking for this community sensitive solutions process. And this is what we got, the XCAP. It's a compromised CSS process, but it's sort of working. I would prefer that it was deeper into community, but I don't think we could get less than XCAP process.
So I guess and I think I don't want you to misinterpret that we're saying we want to skip any type of community process, because that's certainly not what we're saying. But what we are saying is that depending on what the state of development of the process the project is in, if it's already received, for instance, grant funding or something like that, we don't want to put us in a situation where we've got a project that's prepared to move forward with potentially already an alternative for 4 tracks incorporated into a potential design, where we're saying, all right, we're going to stop, we're going to turn back this grant funding, and we're going to go back to the public and do a new XCAP type process.
Well,
I think-
ultimately, this is just a recommendation we're giving to council. Just because we're suggesting it doesn't mean that council's going to agree. So, I mean, I think ultimately, yes, that's possible, Philip, but the reality is it's going to be on council to say, no, sorry, we're not going to have a full XCAP type thing. We're going to do this other thing, right? Or vice versa. They may say, no, we think if high-speed rail is going to lead, we do want a 48-month process, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I think what staff is saying is that 4 tracks can be incorporated into the different alternatives, and especially when XCAP's not even making a recommendation for South Palo Alto as an alternative. I think that that's something where you could just say the next step is to look into 4 track. Although, yeah, it could end up being that there's an XCAP or a similar type of community process that is recommended for that.
well, there's one
So
other.
if we're objecting to the phrase XCAPS type study, can we just say a study including community outreach or something like that? It's more generic.
Right.
Yeah, that's supportable too.
A significant or if 4 tracks are needed, a revised study with community outreach. Hold on, let me write down what I'm saying. Would likely have to be undertaken.
Yeah.
Or alternatives should be revised and outreach should be performed.
I don't like that language. I can go along with it, but I would want to point out this is our report, not staff's report. They're free to disagree with us.
Yep. Yep.
And not really disagreeing, just trying to make sure that we're not boxing in too much.
So I think we are disagreeing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that you think that a much lighter approach could be undertaken if a 4-track system is required.
I think it really just depends. I don't necessarily think that. I think it's possible that it might take us quite a bit of work depending on where we are.
Well,
That's what we said at the start.
Yeah, so I think that there's a possibility of that, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think it just depends.
okay, Phil, you can type in your comments box there, right?
Yeah, I can. So what do you want me to say?
Okay, let's try this on the screen so that everyone can see it. If 4 tracks are needed, a significant revised XCAP type study.
Sorry for being a lousy. Significant revised X.
CAP type study would likely have to be undertaken.
Okay.
And then
Done.
X-Cappers, I want to hear from you if that's not okay. Does anybody object to that? We've heard from staff. Nope, everybody's good with that?
I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, I'm going to stroll through the rest of my doc for, so I guess the next substantive comment is on page 4, where it says among the things city can work on. I would say needs to, not just can.
Um,
At least that's my position.
Yeah,
I think
I agree with that position.
I think I'm comfortable leaving it as can, because in general, dictating to the city council isn't, I mean, we can make a suggestion, but ultimately they decide, right? So needs to is like, this is absolutely has to happen. You know, I'm also sensitive to the
Okay.
fact that we're in a fiscal crisis and they might decide to prioritize things differently. So
They might, but before they make final decisions. So I'm going to go back and quote Larry. This is our report.
Yep. Okay.
So I mean, I'll do whatever everybody wants to, but I'm just going to quote Larry here.
Was there some middle ground between can, which is pretty weak, and should, which is pretty strong?
I'm okay with needs to. I mean, if everyone wants that, can you scroll up a little bit more so we can see what follows? I just want to make sure. I only see 1 through 4 there, Phil, but I think there might be a little bit. Yeah. Okay. That's good.
Oh, this is wordsmithing, but the key stakeholders include the Chamber of Commerce and PAUSD.
I think we have a different section where we talk about all the key stakeholders.
All right. So should I just delete this comment?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, I'm happy to do that. And that's it for this section. So I'm going to save this.
Okay, well, we didn't decide. Do we want can or should or needs?
Oh.
What did we go back?
Sorry about that.
Could we
I'm
say
getting ahead of
XCAP
myself.
recommends that the city work on the following?
I mean, this entire thing is our
Yeah,
recommendations,
yeah.
and this is the executive summary. So, I mean, by default, this is what we're recommending.
We just have to be consistent between what we write here and what we write in the main body of the report.
Yes.
I think needs to works for me.
Yep, I'm fine with needs to if that's what you guys want to do. And that's page.
I prefer
4.
needs to over can.
Okay. All right.
Larry,
Let's-
just curious.
I'm indifferent.
Okay, fine. Let's just do needs to. I'm good with it.
Okay, so can I close this off?
Actually, before you do that, let me just, I'm taking a picture of where I am in the document so that then I can go back to it later and make sure we've edited and I can get those in.
Okay,
Okay.
so I have a question, Nadia.
Yeah.
Assuming that I share this out with people, what's the best mechanism to do that doesn't get any of us in trouble with the Brown Act?
I think for right now, you can just send your edits to me and I'm going to collate everything into one
All right.
thing that will then get sent out. That's probably the easiest way. Okay, so next chapter is the introduction, chapter 1.
Oh, chapter 1. Okay, and again,
Doesn't look like you have it open on your
no, I
tabs there.
don't. I have to. I'm going back to the introduction chapter.
Does anybody else have any significant edits for either the executive summary or chapter 1?
Okay, now I've got it open. Can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm going to ignore the sort of editorial type comments. Some of these, again, it's just in
Yeah,
service.
you
of
can send those
improvement.
to me. I can look at them over, but
Okay, so that's just all editorial. I'm going to skip all that.
in the meantime, XCappers, are there anything in chapters?
Nothing in this chapter for me,
Okay, all right.
but I'll be happy to scroll up and down so everybody can look at the document.
I think we're okay. Does anybody have anything for the executive summary and chapter 1? Nope. Okay, we can do chapter 2 if you have anything.
Okay, Nadia, a comment on chapter 2, where there's a footnote number 5.
Yep.
I tried that link and it didn't seem to work.
It should. I can check it again. So footnote number
Right. Well, I
5.
verified this from the PDF, not from the original Word doc.
Okay.
So-
What page number is that?
What page number is it? Can't quite tell. It's on the page where there's a heading at the bottom, high-speed rail and Caltrain operations. It's
Okay.
footnote number 5.
Footnote number 5. It should be, I mean, it looks just on site, it looks correct. It's the PCP September report of the Caltrain thing. So
All
I
right.
can
Okay.
check
Well,
it.
then that's
It might be
just-
that it's not, it doesn't have a link, but you might have to copy paste. And if you copy pasted, you accidentally get page 16 of such link. And that might be why it didn't work, Phil.
Okay. All right. So then ignore what I said. In fact, I'll delete that.
Oh, it's okay. I'll check it anyway, but
Okay.
I think actually if you could pause here on the historic funding sources. So we had this, Larry and I were having this discussion back and forth, and I don't think we got XCAP's
Okay.
opinion. Nope, go back.
Uh,
You were headed the right way. It's
this
the,
way?
Yep, it's the pink section. There. So XCAPers, this section is the part that it talks about funding for grade separations. And so I had included in there a section about how historically the first 150 years of the grade separations were basically funded through federal money, or actually not the first 150 years, but from the early years, it came from federal money. And then if you want to scroll a little bit further, Phil. And then that in the 90s, essentially, the county, San Mateo County passed Measure A. And so the majority of the grade separations were built there, mostly for car purposes, not for train purposes. And then, this was stuff that was presented to XCAP at, I think, one of their very first meetings. It was kind of leftover stuff from the CAP stuff when we had the AECOM economist basically come and explain how grade separations are funded. And so what it shows is that it's typically, there's some, in the past it was all federal. Then when you have these county measures, there's usually some regional funding, some state funding. And then the local match is typically the tax measure stuff. So then if you want to forward a little bit more. And then kind of the point being that moving forward, because grade separations are now necessary for train operations, they're not for car operations, that the way that these things are funded is likely going to change. And so that's something that policymakers should keep in mind. So that's kind of a summary of what that section says. Larry thought we could remove all of it because we were asked not to talk about funding. I thought we should, I was making the argument that we should keep it in there. And Larry, I'll let you speak to your position in a second. I thought it was important to keep it in there because it explains to people who don't know kind of what happened previously. And it also explains that we have this, there's going to be a change in the funding dynamic because the need used to be that the grade subs were for cars and roads. And now that it's a system-wide, there's 41 remaining grade separations that are necessary for upgrading Caltrain for electrification, that the funding system will be different. Larry, do you want to speak to your position?
Oh, I just think, well, I think the two grounds that Nadia mentioned, I think that this has way, way too much information. The first one is that we were told not to be concerned about financing. And when in the executive summary, we say we are not doing anything with regard to financing. We're just mentioning a couple things that we learned as we went along, like Measure B. Second is, history is nice, but in this case, when you go back 30, 40, 50 years, it's really irrelevant to the reader. It just doesn't make any difference. What counts is what's the law, right? Or the likelihood of various sources today. And that's why I can support having the stuff in about Measure B, but not going back to what happened in Millbury in the 1990s, for example, or some of those things. And when we get down to the present time, I would strike out the stuff about what Palo Alto might do, because that is precisely what the council told us not to be involved in.
Can you scroll a bit more? I didn't think we had anything about what we might do. I'm
Yes, we
pretty
do.
sure.
Scroll down.
We have measure B. Keep
Keep going.
going.
How additional funding sources?
Oh, well, that we agreed to that as a group at one of our meetings, and the reason we made it kind of just these were all the words that were given to us by the economist, and that was what we agreed we would all keep. So I'm fine taking out all the historical stuff, but this had been part of a discussion at one of the earlier CAP meetings when we discussed, or XCAP meetings when we discussed chapter 2, where we agreed that rather than like we're just listing what was originally on an AECOM document that was given to us of potential funding sources, and that's simply a listing of those.
Well, that was back before the council said, don't worry about funding sources.
I don't think so, but okay.
It doesn't make any difference because why is it in here? We have nothing.
It's fine. I'm hearing you. Yeah. Can you?
I have a question.
Yep.
One point, the council is going to have a different group look into the funding issues. Did anything ever happen with that?
No.
That's because of COVID?
Because of several things.
Okay.
Could you scroll a little bit more past the Palo Alto funding options? I just want to see what else is in there because I don't have this paper copy in front of me. So Larry, you want to take out the stuff about federal infrastructure spending as well? And
No. No, I think that's consistent with having the other ones in there like Measure B and Measure RR.
okay. So anybody else have any thoughts? I mean, if you think it's too detailed, I'm fine removing stuff. I don't mind shortening this report.
So I have a thought. So throughout our deliberations, I think we've had how we're going to fund this and the cost as being a big influencer of our decision making. And so I think there should be some reference to this. And I think I agree with Larry, it doesn't have to be too detailed and it doesn't have to be generic, but I think it was a big influencer in our decision making.
Yeah, that's why we got rid of the tunnel options.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it should have some weight in here in our report.
Well, I agree with Tony, but I would just note that cost and funding are two different things. Cost is always going to be relevant because somebody's going to be funding it and somebody's going to be concerned with what the cost is. So obviously cost was a major factor in our decision making, but funding is not, because the council said not to.
Well, but I also have a problem with, I mean, the reason I think it's important to have even the 2014 stuff of how the San Bruno thing was paid for is that I think that there's a misconception in the community that the only way that this gets funded is that Palo Alto taxes itself. And they don't understand that there are other buckets of money and that historically, there was a much more locally funded thing because there were road projects that benefited each individual city within the county and thus were funded through county tax measures. But that since this is now a system-wide issue that crosses 3 counties, it's part of the reason that Caltrain is looking at a corridor-wide funding study and kind of how it's more likely that some kind of funding, some overall funding for all of the grade separations will come from something higher than a county level.
Yeah. So Nadia, why can't you say that in 1 or 2 paragraphs and
sure. If you guys want,
a lot of the detail?
I can try to cut this down and bring it back for the next meeting and pare it down so that we've got just a few sentences on.
Yeah, just write down what you said.
Okay.
Okay. But one
That
thing
may
is
be all
that
the council needs to know.
one thing that we found with XCAP is that we've learned a lot, bits and pieces here and there, and putting them together is painful. And I would hate to just throw this away. Instead of deleting it, I'd throw it to an appendix because somewhere down the road, a new council member is going to want to get up to speed. And what are they going to do? They're going to look at this.
Okay.
And they may be concerned about this. So I would not want to throw this away.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Keith.
Do you want me to just put this all in an appendix section on funding?
Yeah, except for the few sentences you just verbalized.
Okay. I can try to bring something back so we can look at that next week. Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
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 Larry, you all right with this going into an appendix with some summary sentences?
Yes, from me,
Okay.
Tony.
Yeah, me too.
Carrie? Carrie, are you okay with that?
Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button. That's fine.
No, okay, no worries. Okay, all right. Anything else in this chapter, Phil? That was,
Give me a second to keep scrolling. I think we're done.
okay, cool. All right, that brings us to chapter 3. I think chapter 3.1 was the summary of alternatives that were removed before we got here. Does anybody have any changes to that?
Camera's off. The camera's not working, so you can just pick up your printouts.
Anybody? No edits to that one? Okay, that brings us then to chapter 3. Oh, sorry, Phil, did you have anything on this one?
No, nothing. It was very
Okay.
clean.
All right, so that brings us to 3.2. So Dave, if you want to share your screen from here, we can. Thank you, Phil, for
All right. So let me
that.
stop sharing. Give me a second to figure.
Yeah, and you can keep looking at your
I'm
notes.
somewhat Zoom challenged.
No
Hey,
worries.
Phil, do you have anything substantial before you unshare?
All right, give me a second to scroll
Yeah.
through. Again, there's a lot of just like writing cleanup.
Yeah, bigger than writing cleanup.
This is a big chapter.
Oh yeah,
Not as big as the one after this.
exactly.
Hey, if they're only minor comments, I can share the doc after this meeting, and then
Yeah,
can
you know
just
what?
go
This
type
is
them in for me.
this is all minor editorial and writing cleanup. So I'm done. Let me see if I can stop sharing. Again, I seem to be very Zoom challenged today. Give me a second to unchallenge myself.
Can I take it over while you're?
Yeah, I think you can. I
No,
don't
I
think he has
can't.
to.
Oh,
you
yeah,
can.
I got it. Okay,
Oh,
stop
wait.
sharing. All right.
Actually, I could have
Dave.
killed you. Sorry about that. Would have been more fun to kill you.
Only in video games.
That's right.
XCAP, the video game, coming soon. You too can design a grades app.
Yeah, right. Okay.
My idea, register trademark on that before anybody goes wild.
All right. Okay, so not many things happened. We'll get Phil's edits in here. Why was that? Oh, just graphics.
So I had on page 7 here. Keep scrolling a little bit. Oh, you fixed
There's
it
7?
already. Okay, yeah, the version that was posted online still had some comments in there. So you're looking at the document, right? You're looking at your own Word doc, but whatever we got given to XCAP still has the comments on the side. Do you want to look at that?
Oh, let's see, why is that? Is it this one? Come on.
Yep. Draft G, it says. It's called Draft G.
Nope, that's not it. I think it's this one.
No, that's 3.2.
Oh, that's the X. I think that's your dissenting opinion. Hold on, where's the G? Huh? Where's it? Hold on. No, that's it.
Okay. So on our version on page 7, we can still see comments. The first is which on page 7, which I think we rectified the last meeting. So I just want to make sure they got wiped out.
They're not in this one.
Okay, all right.
What? Give me some text around where you're.
It was a shoe fly track significantly increases the time, construction, and cost of the project.
Let me go to there. That's a little bit later.
That is-
8.
okay.
8, actually.
Oh, it's moved a little bit. Okay. So I thought we took out a shoe fly. We took out significantly, right?
Oh, that's
Yes,
great.
it
I
doesn't.
missed
Yeah.
That news. Okay, so let me do that and I'll kill the notes, right?
Yeah, you might want to resave this as a new version before you start mucking with it, right?
Oh, good idea. Well, let me do it on this one then.
Yeah, can you also kill my comment?
Yeah,
I'll kill
he'll
those
get rid of
comments in a
all that.
second.
Yeah,
Sorry, give me 1 second here.
yeah, no worries.
I guess that's a really G, so we'll call this one H, not to confuse anybody.
Yeah. Excuse me one second. I just got to turn the light on in the room where I am.
So it's been such an intense week. Can I suggest that we back off of our killing metaphor language?
Oh, sorry.
That's true.
Not so violent.
Sorry. It's been a
Carrie,
weird
we're
one.
talking about video games, and remember?
It's fine. It's fine. I know you don't mean anything by it, but yeah.
Okay. Well, you know, in several operating systems, you end a program by killing the process, just so you know.
That is true. I've been really impressed over the last year at the improvements in language used in computer science. We'll have to talk about that offline.
Dave, can you fix your view so we can see a little bit more of your document, like so you don't have to scroll side to side? Is there a way to?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a little better. Perfect.
Oh, I didn't know my view could actually affect you guys. Okay.
Yep.
So I think, okay, does that look good?
Yep.
All right.
And then I think you added a page 10 or my page 10. There you go. This
That
is
was
the
Ripon stuff.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure XCAPers have a chance to read this. This was, we had asked Ripon to work on some language based on AECOM's description of long-term maintenance. And so this is what came back to us. So I'll give you guys a minute to read it and see if everyone's okay with it. I think instead of for the viaduct, add the word the, right? And then before the word underpass, in that same paragraph, the next sentence, similarly for underpass, it should be for the underpass.
This one or? Oh,
No, next one
there it is.
above. Yep.
Would that be for the partial underpass?
Yep.
Oops. And I think we have another one here.
Yep.
Yeah, can you say where it says due to high groundwater conditions expected, can't you just say found? Because it's not like that's a future.
I think because we didn't do a real official groundwater study, he's saying expected. Is that right, Ripon? Did I get that?
Yeah, that combined with like we are expecting that there is high water conditions in that area, right?
We could say instead of expected,
we believe.
Predicted.
Believe to be in the area.
The word expected, we can just say due to the high water conditions in the area.
Okay, sure. All right, let's take out expected then.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? Everybody okay with that language?
Oops, sorry.
Okay, hearing none.
All right, let me accept this then.
Yeah. Oh, it feels good to clean up this document.
I know, the more white page, less comments on the right, be good.
So this one, we're still waiting on AECOM, who hopefully will be sending Ripon something tomorrow. So as soon as we get that, I will share it with you, Dave, and then also with Greg Braille.
Okay, I'll leave this comment in.
We can add, they were, I did had a discussion with Millette on that one, and she said we could add construction impacts on El Camino and Oregon Expressway as well. So if you want to add that, that's fine.
Under the closure plus mitigations?
Correct.
I'm sorry, so say that one more time. Add Oregon Expressway.
Elma Street. So just same temporary night and weekend closures of lanes on Churchill Avenue, Elma Street, and Embarcadero Road. So you can add Oregon and El Camino Real as well on that one. That's it. In addition to
Brown, could you speak up a little more? I'm having trouble hearing you.
Yeah, me too.
temporary. So if you can add before Alma Street, right after Alma Street, comma, and then the El Camino Real. Oregon Expressway and Embarcadero Road.
Wouldn't Kingsley and High Street also have something because that's where the intersection goes?
So isn't that Embarcadero?
mean, no,
there-
there's
There are intersections of Embarcadero at Kingsley and High, right?
well, I guess there's a couple of different things. One is there's the Embarcadero Road, and then there's the Embarcadero Slip Road. Then in addition, you have at Kingsley, at both ends of Kingsley, there's a light that would get added at Alma and Kingsley, but there's also another light, if I recall, that could potentially get added at Kingsley and Embarcadero. And so basically, and Kingsley is a very short street, like it has maybe 8 houses on it. So
yeah, I don't know if there's gonna be night and weekend closures because you can add a signal or make minor improvements to the signal, but
okay, all right, that's fine.
and those all will be identified in environmental impact report anyway.
Yeah, okay, all right, I'm fine with just that amendment. Is everybody okay with that, or?
Normally during a large construction project, you have a logistics plan that is much more detailed. It's usually about 20 pages for a building. So there's a lot more work that should be done on this.
Yeah, this is just a high level guess right now.
Yeah, this is a high level guess. It's really a very high level guess.
Yep,
But
okay,
Design documents and construction plans will have much more details.
okay, I think with that, if everyone's okay, we can remove that comment and we're done with that one.
Okay. This one for you,
Okay.
Nadia?
Yeah, the next one,
Caltrain right away.
we're waiting for what the matrix clarification is, right? Ripon, is this one that AECOM's addressing, right?
Yes,
That's coming.
I thought we talked about it but yes, we will have a more.
We'll have the language at the next meeting, right? Yeah, okay.
All right, I'll
Okay.
leave that in. Oh, there might be something I want to insert here with the new PAUSD letter, but I don't have that yet. I haven't had a chance to really look at the letter. But there might be something to add because of that letter.
you might just want to say that it's in the appendix, refer to the letter.
Do you want to at least highlight it with a comment, Dave, so we have a
Oh, yeah.
reminder next time we go through this document that we need to know what's being added there?
I should have brought this up earlier, but I'm assuming, Ripon and Philip, that the school district's December letter was never in the city council packet. And I think it ought to be.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it hasn't, as far as I know, been in their packet as of yet, although not to give you too much information about all the background on that, but they had given the city manager a draft letter a while back, and we'd been asking them when the letter was coming. And then I think just last week, as we were asking if we could have a copy of the letter, if they were still planning on finalizing it, whatever, they said, just consider the draft as the final. So we don't have anything signed or anything like that. Just noting that, we just received the letter, and I'm sure that city manager's intent is to pass it on to council.
Okay. So then we can't include it in our report yet. Since the December date obviously is no longer appropriate.
I don't
We just
know.
need to-
Yeah,
Well, I mean, they made reference to it at a public meeting. That's how I knew that a letter existed. So,
yeah, they had made reference to it, but they'd never actually really distribute it. They had sent it to Ed for comments, and then they said, "Oh, let's just consider that draft version the final." And I think this was around a week ago. So,
Well,
we'll have to
I'm
see
just trying to
what
protect the city administration, Philip.
yeah, I'm not sure what the answer to
They're
that
not
is.
going to like the idea that the letter dated December isn't being disclosed until mid-January.
I'm not sure that we're going to get a new version of this letter. So I think that's a question for the city manager as to whether he's going to push them to change the date or send it signed or anything like that. I think those are all questions that we'll have to ask. But I am quite positive that the city council will receive it. I'm just not sure whether it'll be changed at all, modified before it's actually sent to them.
Well, if it's open to modification, I think that it is a matter of telling the whole story. It would be nice if the school district acknowledged they'd had a representative on the XCAP and that they withdrew that person before COVID-19 ever occurred.
Yeah, I think that was certainly in the discussion when they were asking for comments on the draft.
Sorry to have got out of order here.
Nope. I think it's a worthy question.
I just put a note in there, say wait until approved. So we'll just stick it in there
okay.
till later. Does that sound good?
Yep, I'm good with that.
Let me see. Oh, no, this is majority position. Okay, so here we come to some of Carrie's comments. So we kind of did this without looking at the document. So Carrie, if you are able to, you can take a look at what I did for real now. So we had a discussion about what traffic meant, and often traffic really defaults to vehicular traffic. And so just wanted to be more specific about how we talk about this and that in the document itself. So what I did was I stuck the word vehicular for this particular section, because that's what the traffic report focused on. And we did have a paragraph right after that, which talked about an enhanced experience for cyclists and pedestrians. And then based on Carrie's suggestion, I included this sentence at the end, which said this should include improvements relating to the areas around Embarcadero at Alma, including Kipling High and Emerson at Embarcadero, as defined by the Neighborhood Traffic Safety and Bicycle Boulevard project. Or
Is it a question? Is it Kipling or is it Kingsley? Do I have my streets wrong there?
I think you gave it to me,
No, it's Kingsley.
Carrie.
I think it's Kingsley.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Oops.
And then
And that link goes to the plan, the 2012 plan, right?
The 19 goes to 19 footnote goes to whatever's on this page, the NTSBB page.
Okay.
Is that okay? Or did you want to
I
point?
think that's one we looked at, I think. Okay, great, thank you.
Where we
Oh,
have
I have a-
vehicular traffic moved elsewhere, right underneath that says, as discussed in the traffic studies section. Do we have a traffic studies section, or what were you really referring to? I think what you mean is the, oh, okay, here I see the traffic studies section. So, okay. Do we have that labeled as traffic studies? Does anyone know if that's like that in Greg's section as well? Does it say traffic studies?
Let me pull up the
I'd be able to
talk
look
and
at
see
the
what it looks
talk, yeah.
like.
I have a comment on that. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So I just want to make clear that the traffic report says that the traffic can be mitigated, which I appreciate what you've done, Dave, is say that. But it doesn't, it should make clear that only the traffic is mitigated and not all other mitigations that might happen because of it, like on bike and ped, on the quality of the neighborhood, and so on. So it should be clear that only the traffic is able to go.
Yeah, I think,
True.
Tony, what you mean is all the traffic impacts can be mitigated.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, thank you, Phil.
I think that's sort of what Carrie was trying to get at too. So, which is why well, please give a suggestion if you have it with what's here. But I tried to fix that a little bit with being specific about vehicular traffic.
Yeah, but we should clarify the kind of mitigation that happens. It's the traffic mitigated.
You mean here?
It's just traffic mitigated. The heading is a little bit misleading because I think it suggests that everything can be mitigated, but it's just that the traffic can be mitigated.
Actually, he changed it to vehicular traffic, I think, to address exactly that. Right?
And I think I'm hearing it's not enough, or
Yeah, that was our
that's what I'm
intention. What
thinking,
would you
it's
say,
not
Tony?
enough.
yeah.
So a couple of things, Dave, can you put a comment around the section XXX just so that it stands out when I hand it to the editor, so she can be sure to tie that to wherever that page data, right? And I think it's currently page 11, I think, in the version I have.
I got page 15 here.
No, I'm saying it
Oh.
it ties to page 11 within the same chapter, because you're just referring to a few pages before.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I have to admit that when I wrote that, I assumed there might have been a section that just talks about the entire traffic studies together.
Okay, so then we should think
so-
about whether those are the right words. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, because what I talk about up top here is only about the Churchill parts of the traffic study, not the whole thing.
I guess the question is, in your own traffic studies section, which starts on page 11, if you want to scroll up to page 11, you can see it.
So I think what you're getting
Right
at is like,
there.
yeah, we could point to this.
Right,
with
so that's what I thought you were pointing to. So I just want to, is that what you mean? And otherwise that needs to be edited for whatever you actually meant. You know what I'm saying?
Well, now looking at it now, because I haven't thought about it. Yeah, I think it can point up. So we can say previous traffic section or traffic.
You could put traffic studies within this. You could put parentheses within this chapter, and I'll work with the editor to make sure that that points correctly.
How about in this chapter? Does that sound good?
Yep. Keith or Phil, did you guys have anything for this?
I have a lot
section?
of comments that I'll send separately to you and to Dave for this chapter, or this
Okay.
section rather.
Well, if there's anything substantive, I mean, if there's small comments, that's fine, but any
No,
substantive.
I don't think it's substantive. It doesn't rise to the point of needing group discussion time.
Okay,
Clarifications and edits.
okay. And then the minority opinion right now is its own chapter, so we can discuss that in a second. Then, but
So
the
should I
violent-
remove this, or is it still?
I
that
think
what you mean?
I think you'll remove that because I think the minority section that we have is completely written.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, you can take that out, and then whatever although you might want to keep in the note that says that this section needs to be input. You know what I'm saying? That thing that's highlighted yellow. Yeah, just delete, exactly. And then right after that, we have the paragraph about Tony's thing, about the viaduct.
And I delete this too, right?
I didn't see, Tony had sent a blurb, I think, and I thought you might have put it in. Tony, is this the blurb that you sent, or what is this?
No,
it's not.
this
it's
is not.
the blurb.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just the first paragraph of the appendix.
Okay.
Actually, these two then should be removed too, right? Partial underpass and viaduct, and they're going somewhere else, aren't they? Because it doesn't really go in this area anymore.
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So let me just get rid of this.
Okay, so Tony's blurb gets added to minority opinion.
All right, I'm gonna approve this if that's cool. Whoops.
Well, actually, hold on a second.
Okay.
Tony's, so what we gave is a complete, the dissenting opinion, the Keith, Phil and I
Yep.
gave like a full section. I think the, you could take out the words partial underpass, but then the viaduct is still a separate minority opinion that would have a paragraph here, and then we'll revert to the we'll say the rest is in the appendix, right? Or are we sticking Tony's entire thing into the appendix? I'm open to discussion on this one.
I think you need to refer to it here.
Well, the thing is, you ended up ultimately voting with the closure, and so in this case, this is your. It's not like there was a 6 or a 5-3-1. There was a 6-3. So ultimately, even though you were supporting the viaduct, you did end up going with the closure. So I think it's confusing to keep it here. I'm fine with having you have your viaduct thing in the appendix, but I don't think adding it here, it makes it, because then when you're doing the math, you're like, well, wait, who voted for this, right? Oh, you accidentally muted yourself, Tony.
Sorry, I did vote for closure, I still would. But I don't think that the mitigations that the closure imposes can be supported by me anymore after all this information that I've got. And even at that time, I think that the mitigations that this alternative suggests are better than the ones that they replace, but it's more expensive. And so I think it's an opinion within our XCAP group, and I think it should be in minority opinions.
Well, I think the challenge is the report has to reflect what happened. So we're not voting again. And so if you've changed your mind on what you voted on previously, it's difficult for us to reflect that now, right?
No, you're right, right. You
So
cannot unravel it, but you can tell how I changed about not supporting the mitigations that are proposed, mainly because they export the problem to other neighborhoods. And we've never done that while my time on ARB or the Planning Commission or any of that. So I cannot support the mitigations as proposed now. So,
but nothing has changed. So when you voted.
So if you want to, I still think it's a viable option. It just costs more. And I think we can leave out what I think on costs and so on. But I think it's a viable alternative, Nadia, and I think it's probably likely to happen. It's the most reasonable alternative.
I'm sorry, which alternative are you talking about now? I think I'm lost.
Pardon?
Which alternative are you talking about is the most likely alternative?
The one on the slight increase in Churchill and then the viaduct over Embarcadero.
Okay, I think we're talking past each other. What I'm saying is that this section of the report reflects the vote that XCAP took. I don't even know when it was at this point. And so what we're saying is that, so page 14 starts summary of majority opinion, which is the 6 of you guys.
Oh, I didn't.
And then comes the minority opinion, which is me, Phil, and Keith. And then we have a blurb about the viaduct, which was the lone thing that you supported, but then you ended up flipping over to a closure. So what I'm saying is that your entire blurb, I think, rightfully then moves to the appendix because you didn't end up ultimately voting for it in your own vote.
Yes, I agree. I think it just needs to be referred to somewhere in the report.
Didn't we talk about it before and then it got narrowed down to 2? I don't know if it's fair to say he didn't vote for it. I think that alternative was narrowed down by this group and then that vote was taken.
No, I believe that he was a lone person on viaduct. And then when we decided, okay, well, who's voting for closure? Tony flipped to closure.
Yeah, that's fine. I just don't want to characterize that he didn't support his own idea. He did. You threw it out as an option.
No, yeah, right. But I'm saying in terms of, I'm just trying to use this report to memorialize what happened. And what I think is confusing is right now we have a majority opinion, a minority opinion, and then we have this random section on the viaduct. And so,
But didn't that happen?
sure.
I mean,
But if you,
Yeah.
so I'll take any suggestions on how to reflect what happened and the best way to present this. I'm not trying to argue for or against either. I'm struggling with how to write it so
Yeah.
that the math works and people understand what the recommendations were.
Yeah, Nadia, if we're memorializing what happened, can't we say that in one of the later sessions, there was additional consideration given and therefore, and bring out Tony's points that way?
I'm
I'm
open
good
to
with
whatever
that.
I'm open to whatever the group thinks is
I mean,
appropriate.
because Tony has some very valid points here, and they should be captured.
Well, I mean, ironically, some of his concerns about the inability for those mitigations to work is what partial underpass people think. So I hear you. You got a fan here, but I'm just trying to find out the best way to kind of put this in the report.
Or maybe, and I'm going to throw this out for discussion, maybe Tony should join the dissenting opinion crowd instead of the supportive closure crowd. I'm
Actually,
throwing it out.
Fire,
And look,
Phil.
I'm not on video, so you can't see that I've got a big grin on my face.
Yeah, I have a grin on my face even though I'm on video. But no, I don't think we can do that, Phil. We cannot go back in history and change it.
No, I'm not suggesting we go back in. We simply document the fact that we've had some buyer's remorse, as it were.
After more information, it's buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
And
I'm throwing out the idea. I'm going to shut up now.
Thanks. So where's the hot
I've made
potato
enough
landed?
trouble for the last few minutes.
Larry, do you have any suggestions with your years of wisdom on this? What are your thoughts on how to resolve this?
Well, I thought we'd had this resolved, that Tony's view is we put in the appendix because it's off the charts. It doesn't fit into any of the categories. It's a new category. And it's not that necessarily, as I understand Tony, and he can correct me, that he's necessarily advocating. He just thinks that it's something that in a more perfect world it ought to be analyzed.
I couldn't say it better, Larry. Thanks. I agree. I'm just saying it's an idea that might happen. And so let's put it in. I'm okay with putting it in the appendix. Just refer to it here. And I don't know
we
how
are trying to document the work we've done. And certainly Tony's work here is important.
For sure, yeah.
I also think it's important to note that we originally had more than two options. We couldn't get the momentum behind any one option. We discarded the lowest supported option and then continued to vote. And I think that's an important process part to include in this is it wasn't that we were down to these two are obviously the best. There was another voice in there. So I don't know about we've already discarded that option to begin with, and now we're discussing people's objections to what ultimately passed. I don't know why you wouldn't include that there.
Okay. Does someone want to volunteer to help take a stab at how to change this paragraph to reflect what was just said?
I'll take a shot at it.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm just going to put your name next to it, Larry, and we can hear from you next week. Page 7.
I think we're going to come up with a new name rather than viaduct, though.
Yeah.
Yes, you need to find a new name.
Okay. Anything else?
I think we're down to the end. I think
Okay.
nothing has changed down here. Okay.
Did anybody else, Phil, you said you didn't have anything significant?
No,
Everything else is minor?
nothing that's worthy of group discussion.
Okay, Keith, I know you're on the phone, so it might be a little harder, but did you have anything?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Carrie, you're good?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we're getting there. I'm hoping that Greg joins us so we can go through his chapter, but I haven't seen him. So we might have to work through it without him. Okay. Do we want to go through the dissenting opinion? Did you guys get a chance to read it, or do you guys want to discuss it next week? I'm sensitive to the fact that you got it on Monday, and so maybe not everyone had a chance.
Where's the dissenting opinion?
That's currently called Chapter 3.2, dissenting opinion in favor of partial
Oh.
underpass. It's attachment B on the agenda, basically.
I am fine with talking about it next time. I did
Yeah,
not
me
have a lot
too.
of time to work on it this week.
Okay.
I don't know why I missed it, but
Well, Phil, you helped write it, so you don't need it.
well, that doesn't mean I wouldn't edit my own writing. In fact, I'm very harsh on my own writing.
Okay. All right. So dissenting opinion then next week. Read it or forever hold your peace.
Yeah, I can't seem to find that file. I may have deleted it by accident. Can someone send that out again?
Yes, I will send it to you. It's also in the on the agenda. It's
But that's what I might.
I'll send you
That's
a
what I
soft
appeared to
copy.
have deleted. So,
Well, but you can get it from online, right?
all right, agenda.
And then attachment B.
I've sent some proposed revisions to Dave and Nadia. I just did today. And
Oh, okay. I didn't see those yet.
yeah, well, I just sent it to you since the start of the meeting. So,
Oh, okay. I definitely didn't see them yet.
and the introduction has to be changed just in terms of style, not substance, because it's sort of a repeat of what Dave's already written. But anyway, that's a detail.
Oh,
Yeah, I think we had, but then we just deleted that whole section. So, but I'll take a closer look at it, Larry. So thank you. So, okay, we'll discuss the dissenting opinion next week. Everybody needs to take a peek.
yeah, Nadia. It turns out I do have it in the form of a Word doc. Is that what you're talking about?
Whatever way you have it is fine, as long as
All
it
right.
matches what is Appendix B.
All right. So
Attachment B. I mean.
it has a different name on it. That's why I couldn't find it, but I do have it. Minority
Okay.
position for partial
Yeah, it's
church
the
underpass.
file itself is called dissenting opinion. That's because that's what we had originally started. I changed it to minority position for partial Churchill underpass in terms of a title because I thought it was better to say what we're supporting rather than dissenting.
Yeah.
on
All
this,
right. So I do have it as item X, but that's
Okay.
a Word doc. All right. So
I'll send you a soft copy, Phil, so you can look at it.
all right. Okay. Good.
Okay.
Hey, Larry, the things still, the edits that you made are still not coming through. Is there some way you can cut and paste it like literally into an email? Like I can't see it in that email that you forwarded me. So we can do this
put it in
later.
the PDF that's okay. Well, I got to figure out what I'm doing wrong. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, I can't see it either. I can't get it either,
Okay.
Larry. Okay, so that brings us to Greg's chapter. Unfortunately, he's not here. So I'm going to see if I can open the version that I have. Give me just a second here. Sarah, you sent us soft copies of this, so let me take a peek. Okay.
Nadia, I'm going to have to drop off. So
Okay.
I'll see
All
you
right.
guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Carrie. Carrie, if you could send me, if you have anything major that you definitely want to agendize for the next meeting, could you just make sure you send that to me by email so I can make sure we have it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. I think I've got it. Let me see, track changes mode. Okay, let me see how I can share my screen. Okay, can you all see that? Let me start at the beginning. Okay. I'm just trying to fix my screen so I can see all of you and see this document. All right. Anybody have some significant edits?
On
What's shared on the screen, the Meadow Charleston section? Can you guys see it? Yes, can everyone see it?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Sorry, when I'm sharing screen, I can't see everybody's faces. So without an audio cue, I'm like, hello, anybody there? Whoever's chewing, if you could mute yourself, that'd be awesome. Thank
Sorry,
you.
that's me. Sorry.
Okay.
There's Greg. You want to have him
Oh,
drop?
perfect. Greg, welcome.
Saved by the
Hi there.
Hi, we're just starting your
Hi,
section.
Greg.
Okay. There are only actually two things that changed since last time, but if you wanted, we could go through the comments and just get them resolved. Because
Yeah, that'd be perfect. If
Any
you don't,
substantial comments in here anymore?
if you don't mind sharing your screen, and we'll do that on your version, that would be perfect.
Yes, except I have to find it. Okay. That's draft E. I need to find draft F. Okay. And then what I need to do is turn draft F into draft G. Copy comments.
Draft 8, F, G, yes, G.
Yeah.
I can't do the alphabet today.
Hopefully, XCAP will be done before we run out of letters.
Yes. We can get to X. That would be very poetic.
Okay. Hopefully that's what you're seeing now.
Yes, perfect. And Greg,
So-
just to catch you up before you dive into this one, what we've done up until this point is we literally went from the executive summary all the way to this part of the report and,
goody.
talked through any substantive things. So
Okay.
I can share with you offline kind of big points, but
Okay.
but I think we're in a good spot. But if you had anything and you wanted to revisit those, you can let me know and we can do that at the next meeting.
Okay. I'd be surprised at this point if I didn't.
Okay.
But okay. So let's see, just scrolling down, I will stop for comments, and I only really made one change, and I'll come back to that comment in a sec. One change is we had a comment from the public that said, please explain why the underpass doesn't have a roundabout at Meadow. So I just stuck in a sentence to that effect. I want to keep these sections short, so I don't want to get into all the blow by blow, but
Yep.
that seemed reasonable to me. So one of the questions that has been outstanding for weeks is, what is the difference between
Yes.
a parapet, a noise wall, and a sound barrier? I'm not even sure it matters, but
Yeah.
I just want to,
I'm thinking so the diagram says sound wall barrier.
yeah.
And I think all of those terms are more popular than the word parapet. So I'm
Okay,
good.
so I'll just say sound wall barrier.
Yeah. Does that work for everyone? Do we have any
As long
real-
as it says 6
Yes.
foot. If you said sound wall
Yes.
barrier, people may think it's like 20
No,
feet. or
it
something
says
like that.
a 6
Yeah.
foot sound wall barrier.
Yeah,
Yeah, they might think of the sound walls along US 101, which are
right.
Right. Yep.
maybe 15 feet high, roughly.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
I'm not sure we should specify that it should be 6 feet.
That's what the consultants have put into their diagram.
The reason why I wrote 6 feet was because it says, I guess I could try to make it bigger. Hold on. In the diagram we got from AECOM, it says right there, 6 foot sound wall barrier.
Yep. I think
Right.
it's fine to leave it. I
But-
think it's important to leave it actually.
It could be more, it depends on,
Yeah, could be more, sure.
yeah, so.
Well, that's probably based on the height of the rail car bodies, the EMUs, in terms of where the trucks are and the motors are located.
Yeah. I think it's to be honest, guys, I'm pretty sure it's a standard sound wall for rail where the majority of the noise comes off the wheelbase, which is what happens in the EMUs.
Well, it's the motors and the wheel rail noise.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah,
next
but-
one.
We don't know if it meets the standards that Palo Alto would like, but anyway, I'm good with 6.
Okay.
It's just, it should be 6-ish, but
Right. I mean, all of, I assume, and maybe just this is where we're having trouble with the people reading this report. I assume that everything in here is subject to change.
Yeah.
And subject to the later discussion, right?
Yeah,
We're
this
making
is
a
just high
recommendation
level.
to go to the next level of engineering.
Yes, agreed.
Okay. Hybrid, also mentions a 6-foot sound wall barrier. Okay. Under trench, we did mention higher fencing in areas where the train, and Keith said why, and I don't know.
There was a series of responses to that, and the version that I'm looking at, I don't know where they went, but
I don't know where they went either because I tried to preserve them. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
it's okay. Basically, what happens is as the trench dips down and dips up out of the depth, it was described that the fences needed to be higher because the cables are coming down, and you have a greater chance of someone being able to touch the wires, which is the electrical spot. And so that's what was mentioned. And
So why don't
think,
I say possibly higher? Here, I can make.
or you could put how about just potentially higher, and then I'm fine.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. Because the other option would be to put fencing further away. And is
Yeah.
that, which is better? It's the trade-off. So
I'll
potentially
say
is-
why it has to be there.
yes.
From the wires as the
I
train
want
end.
to say electrical wires. Mary, is that too
No,
technical for people?
No, it's in our glossary, so they can look at
Okay.
it.
Can you say electrified catenary wires? They know why they.
Yeah.
Yes. I think my 7-year-old might know that word. I don't know. Maybe that's not one of them. Okay. He was telling me about dihedral the other day, so I was like,
Your 7-year-old.
well, like he, spends too many times learning about airplanes. So what can I go on to?
Oh, hold on
so
one
let's
second.
see.
Can you go back to where you were in the trench section? I think we had something before. There was a question about the paragraph. So the next paragraph that says, while the trench reduces many neighborhood impacts, that right under where you just were.
Yep. This was a controversial paragraph at one point. I wasn't sure I wanted it here.
Yeah, and so again, in my version, there's comments on this, and so I just wanted to know: did we resolve this? Are we keeping it, or what? Because I thought that Keith added a whole section about this stuff, and so I thought we were removing this because now it's on page 9, essentially.
Keith added a whole section.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you want to delete this, it's kind of repetitive of what I have later. So if you prefer to keep it shorter and when delete it, that's fine with me.
I'm going to delete it.
Okay.
So
the contents in the report. That's all that matters.
Okay.
Yep.
Here's the underpass section. Like I said, I mentioned the Meadow Drive section.
Perfect.
And then we haven't really discussed this section for a while, but I'll keep going unless someone wants me to stop. Most of this hasn't changed for a while. The detailed comparison, we discussed the city adopted criteria in order, including the one that Google thinks is not grammatically correct, but I can't help that. Okay.
Yeah. There was a question, Dave, I'm just remembering, there was one section where you weren't sure if you had used the council criteria in the same way that Greg had used the council criteria, right? If you had applied that the same way, did you check for that? And did we get how did we do on that?
I'm trying to find the section where it was.
Hold on, let me see if I have very chicken scratch notes, so.
It was either minimize disruption. I think it was impact on Caltrain.
Yeah, I think so too.
Where's the impact on Caltrain one? Support continued rail operations.
And so
and I kind of said, look, you want to talk about Caltrain impact during construction? There's a whole section on construction impacts.
Yeah, and so Dave, what did your version of that section talk about? Do you remember?
I don't know. Let's see.
I know, I'm trying to find it.
Okay.
Let's see, yours says, I found it. It says support continued rail operations. Yours says with the closure plus mitigations alternative, no temporary track or shoe fly will be required. With the viaduct, a shoe fly would be required. And the Stanford game day station would be eliminated, and the partial underpass, the shoe fly is likely. So basically you talked about shoe fly operations. And I guess
Most
that
of it, pretty much it was all copied from the matrix on my side. And I think that's the difference between what I did and a lot of what Greg's to me seems more expanded in most cases rather than just blindly copied.
I was trying to sort of explain it and call
Yeah.
out the important differences rather than copy what it said.
Yeah, I think the difference is between the issues for South Palo Alto are a little harder to understand than closure versus viaduct, right? Like I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it actually.
So I have a whole section below on
But that's the difference.
disruption and duration of construction. So for instance, it says temporary electrified traffic, true fly traffic applicable for all operators of the viaduct.
I'm sorry, hold on for just a second. So going back, if Dave, your version talks about the council criteria is support continued rail operations and Caltrain service improvements. And basically you have the 3 sentences about a shoe fly being necessary for which one's required and which one don't. And then that's where that sentence that we were discussing last time, a shoe fly track increases the time and cost of construction. That's where we put all that. Do we still think yours, Greg, instead talks about none of the options impact operations, but we don't have any more information?
Yeah.
Are we okay with both of those sections not necessarily being the same, or?
I'm going to clarify this.
Because if it's expected that we're going to talk about shoe flies the way we did in the first chapter, then we need to put that here, it seems to me. I don't really want to lengthen this, but.
There's a section below.
Yeah, the during construction would be
where we talk about shoe
Right.
flies. This is
exactly.
our shoe fly paragraph.
Okay.
I'm happy to add a sentence and make it duplicative. It's not a problem if it's going to confuse
No,
people.
I think I'm thinking the opposite. I'm thinking on Dave's, all the shoe fly stuff should go into because the shoe fly is really just during construction. It's not, this says support continued rail operations and Caltrain service improvements. I don't know. It's not a well-written criteria in my opinion, so it's really hard to know what they meant by that. So I open to interpretation. What do you guys think?
I think if we take out the shoe fly stuff out of here, I think there might be only one sentence left, which is with the viaducts alternative, a Stanford game day station would be eliminated. And then everything else is pretty much
And I think that's actually
related.
If I think about Caltrain operations, to me, that's sort of the only relevant thing long term. Like once you get past construction, the only notable change to Caltrain operations is there will no longer be a game day stop. Right?
So if that's okay, then so let's see where we put the shoe fly. It would be down.
It would go
here. It is minimize
into,
disruption, duration of construction.
Right. Yeah, I would just move those other sentences there so that these two are the same.
Okay.
Sorry to make us go back and edit a chapter we already went through, but I think.
Okay. And I just reworded something that I thought was confusing as well.
Okay,
So
let me see.
I just wanted to reword the not only 4 tracks, but we don't know. There was we had discussion on, do we think it's easier to go from a 2-track viaduct to a 4-track viaduct or a 2-track trench to a 4-track trench?
Oh yeah, you missed that. We did that again earlier today.
Okay, because we all had kind of like our own theories about it, but we haven't had like an engineer come to us and say, unless, some of you engineers say. If there's a significant difference, like if we factually know that the trench is going to be harder to go from 2 to 4 than the viaduct, then we can say that.
Yep. Okay, let me just read again what you wrote. You want to just highlight what you changed because Larry just sat back down. I just want to make sure he can see.
I just changed really this paragraph here. I really reworded it. It was in there, but I didn't like the way I wrote it. It wasn't clear.
Okay.
I think this way is clearer. Basically, they're not different, and we don't know if we need 4 tracks. And if we do need 4 tracks, we don't know. Like, we're not saying if you think Caltrain is going to need 4 tracks, then don't build a trench or don't build a hybrid or anything like that.
Does the group feel like we need to add a sentence to maybe this one and potentially Dave's section that simply says, because what Caltrain's email to us says is that any alternative that we were to move forward with, like even if the council said tomorrow, okay, we're moving forward with a 2-track viaduct in South Palo Alto, Caltrain has basically said we have to show that a 2-track viaduct does not preclude 4 tracks. Does anyone feel like we need to bring that to their attention from XCAP's perspective? I mean, I get that that's something that's a negotiation that the city will have to have with Caltrain, but I'm realizing that we haven't really, that's kind of a notable thing in those emails that I don't know how else to highlight that.
Well, we better highlight it in some way. Otherwise, council could feel blindsided.
Well, yes, because those emails actually didn't go to council.
We've mentioned
do
it
you
several
think
times.
Caltrain's going to care about that distinction?
No, I don't. Larry, I'm not sure that we have in here anywhere in writing the fact that they say that if we choose an alternative, the onus is enough to show that a 4-track alternative is possible. I don't recall that being explicitly anywhere in here. And I'm not sure that that's necessarily the position that the city would take. That is, however, what Caltrain has said. Right. So I mean, it's a question. I just don't know how to highlight that to the policymakers.
It sounds like it should go in the Caltrain context chapter at the very least, if we still have that chapter.
Yep, we went through that earlier. So
Yeah, you do have it in the policy recommendations, or earlier in that chapter, technical recommendations.
okay,
You do have a paragraph about that states that.
perfect. Phew.
I mean, in theory, all of these.
I'm losing my mind. Don't mind me. I've read
And
these too much.
it has been stated in 2 different locations. One is in the policy section and one in the technical section. So they're
Fabulous. Okay. Guess what? We did a good job. Good job, guys. I'm just losing. There's a little too much train in one
it
day.
does say Palo Alto must able to show whether the design precludes the ability to add to additional.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
Thank
Nadia,
you.
do you think we're going to run all the way to 6:30 tonight, or we're just going to all collapse before
I
that?
think I'm hoping we can just bang through this because it'll make last week less painful. We got this. We got today and next week, guys, and then we are hopefully quite done until we have to get whatever
Awesome.
version we get back from the editor. So yeah, I'm hoping to go the full meeting to just get this through.
All
Plus,
right.
Greg just got here. He's nice
PTC
and
starts
fresh.
at 6 though.
Yeah,
So,
I only had a whole bunch of meetings. So.
Oh, okay. I hear you. Sorry, Keith.
so I'll be dropping it, and VCAP's going to PTC, so I'll be dropping off at 6.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Anything else that's significant?
Let me just scroll real quick through. Okay,
Yeah,
we have a
I do
couple
have
of
it kind of the
corrections.
bottom of page 14, by the way.
Oh boy. I don't know how to find page 14.
Well, scroll up to the beginning of the document.
No, he's almost there. He's almost there. Don't go
All right,
on the
okay.
right side. If you put your cursor, see it's coming up on the right.
My own copy for a second.
Stop.
So when we talk about under hybrid advantages, like all alternatives, crossing gates, et cetera, are limited, that's a benefit for all the alternatives, not just hybrid.
Well, that's what he said, like all alternatives. So do you want to add
I know,
that
but
line?
it's kind of buried in there.
Okay.
We should really call that out as a global benefit.
Well, there is a section on the bottom about noise. And one of the things that we mentioned in the noise section, I think, is, by the way, everything we're doing has, can I split this? I'm not sure I remember how to split.
Yeah, but
well.
I think what Phil is saying is if you have a line for that item, you should probably have it under the viaduct advantage, the trench advantage.
Yeah, because it's a global benefit. In
So
fact,
why don't I should just take this out?
yeah, it should go under noise.
No, you can, I think you can, well, sure, you can remove it, fine.
Yeah, that's my only point. Okay, thank you. Let's see if I have any other.
I'm going to keep looking down because there are a few comments.
Yeah, I have a
there are
question on the
comments.
trench advantages next, and when we're up to that.
Okay. Yep. We can totally do that. Here we go.
So we say creative land use has the potential for neighborhood look and feel, including a playground or other park-like areas. And my question is how?
You put a cover.
Well, and I know you put a cover, but who's going to pay for it? Who's going to approve it? could that create issues? It's not simply because then what you're doing in effect is you've gone from a trench to what's called cut and cover tunnel construction.
So,
Because
Are
that's
you-
what cut and cover means.
yes, are you
Cut it-
suggesting editing the sentence, removing the sentence? What are you suggesting?
It's potential, but it requires further investigations.
Okay.
I think it's an out there idea. It's not easily done.
Well,
And
in
so-
Reno does it downtown. They have a big lid over 2 blocks of the trench. The issue is that it's going to cost money and you're going to have to get Caltrain approval. Neither of those are easy, but
Yes,
it's a
I agree with
potential.
Keith.
So if you want to specify that there be cost and regulatory issues, that I'm happy with that. but-
Yeah, I'm fine keeping the sentence and adding at the comma, but this would require Caltrain, whatever, Caltrain approval and additional funding.
And unknown additional issues. There could be
And
fire
technical
safety
and
issues.
technical review.
Yeah,
and
there could be
technical
fire
review.
safety issues too.
Sure. I mean, all of these have potential issues. And I argued about this before. All of these are subject to Caltrain approval. So,
Yeah, but being really specific about ones that sound really great, but like really people have to be clear on is important. So instead of assuming that Caltrain approves, I would say, but would require Caltrain approval.
Yeah, you could
Not-
take out likely. It will
Yeah.
require
Yeah.
Caltrain approval.
No.
And take out possibly, and I would say at additional cost. I mean, it's not possibly higher cost. It's definitely a cost to add something.
Yep.
And I'm not sure we need the parentheses. I think.
I mean, this basically turns the trench into a cut and cover tunnel. But that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's okay as long as we don't want to make it sound like it's free
Right. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
easy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Whereas the other things on here are free. Okay.
And a lot of people are on that side who like this idea.
Yeah. No, we've gotten the public feedback has been pretty clear.
Oh, it's a
and-
great idea if we
mean-
can do it.
I'm troubled by having the last bullet point, community support, in there. We've been told not to pay attention to the public. And if we give them credit for having 600 signatures, aren't we encouraging other groups to get out 600 signatures on something else?
So I don't disagree, but I have a problem not. I do think it's important. An important advantage is if it's the option that a lot of people like, then you have a lot more community support, right? Now, I understand that that might not be grounded in fiscal possibilities and technical possibilities and all sorts of things, but things that are generally community supported have a better advantage. So I'm struggling with how to both recognize that and not necessarily promote the idea of people having a survey war.
One
In-
point, you say somewhere that we recognize that the trench has neighborhood support.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we need to call that out somehow, because just because if there's any pattern in the communication from the public to us, it's been along. And now that may be due to an organized campaign for one option and not for others. You know, the We Love Viaduct team was never created, but yeah. On the other hand, the council will certainly hear about it, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, well, I would say neighborhood support rather than community.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
9% of those 600 are from the neighborhood.
Yeah, and that's good.
Okay. I'm going to keep scrolling down unless someone is somewhere that they'd like me to stop.
Underpass disadvantages on
yeah.
page 16
Yep,
of
I
my
see it.
PDF.
Yep.
Well, actually, before we get to that, I think we added a whole trench section. Oh no, we moved all this. Never
We
mind.
moved it,
I'm looking at an old
and
version.
We're going to get to that. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to be very I'm going to say what I'm going to say, recognizing what Larry just said. And it's not just disadvantages property acquisition, it's strong community opposition to eminent domain.
Sorry, what page are we on? I missed the.
Under here, we're under here under underpass disadvantages.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
We got quite a mouthful of some of the emails we got from community members.
I feel like it is a slippery slope.
We want to say that the property acquisition of some non-trivial amount of property.
Yeah. And that this is a disadvantage is almost unique. This is an issue that's almost unique to this alternative. We're contemplating whole takings, whole property takings.
Well, but I think, sorry, Larry, can you repeat the language that you suggested? Because I got interrupted for a second.
Scroll up for a sec.
Well, I'd say property acquisition through purchase or eminent domain of a non-trivial amount of properties.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the only one in which anyone has proposed actual full property impacts.
So my hesitation is, number one, most of us have agreed that is the alternative that needs more review if anyone's going to take it seriously. So that number could move upwards or it could move downwards, and I'm unclear. And so I think the fact that it has property acquisition or eminent domain already basically screams like, hey, this is an issue. I'm not sure what additional language we need to add to make that more clear. Maybe involuntary property acquisition?
No, I mean, yeah. The only difference is that, for instance, I know some of the Churchill options involved, small acquisitions, and this involves potentially full acquisitions. I think there's a difference. There's a difference between shortening someone's sidewalk and.
So how about potential property acquisitions or potentially significant property acquisitions or eminent domain?
That's good.
Okay.
No, I don't think it's potentially. You'd have property acquisitions.
You have some, but we don't know what they are. Right?
Yeah, that's true. But we know that there will be.
Right. So as currently designed, the option, go ahead, Greg.
I was just saying that we don't know the extent to which the acquisitions will happen as this design gets refined. But as of now, there are more than normal. I like Larry's word, which was I've forgotten what he said.
Not trivial.
Not trivial.
Well, I mean, any property acquisition already is, it's the number one disadvantage against the other ones, right? That's what none of the other ones have property acquisition.
Right.
Do we have those as a thing?
And
so
if I go back up to the other section, basically detracted the most severe property effects of all. That's what we wrote earlier in the report.
Right. Yeah.
So that, it makes it pretty clear.
So go back again.
Okay. So it's kind of like another way of saying the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why it says may induce traffic, Meadow and Charleston.
Because there's a question about whether if it becomes more efficient, does more traffic come?
Okay, because it also traffic, yes. So, yeah.
And will induce what kind of traffic? If it's neighborhood that would have been in the neighborhood and it attracts that traffic, that's a good thing.
We might attract people from San Antonio to go to Charleston. if
Right.
Charleston is
So,
running-
and this is actually very clear in the traffic report that there are a couple of particular paths that the traffic consultants thought people would take because not all of the turning movements are supported.
Mhm.
Well, but also the opposite too is that, for example, from El Camino to Middlefield is probably gonna be so you may get people who currently use San Antonio to come over to Charleston to go from El Camino to Middlefield or vice versa.
By the way, that is all this is true of all the alternatives. Like if you put a viaduct or if you put a trench, anything that makes that intersection more efficient than the overpasses at San Antonio, just because it's a little more twisty, could induce traffic. That's true of kind of all of them.
Actually, looking more carefully at this, I'm not super excited about this sentence here about I mean, we're basically saying it may induce traffic. There may be traffic diversion through the neighborhood. And because of that, it may impact property values. But everything in this report impacts property values.
Yeah, I don't agree with the impacting on property values. I think that's a very I think that's a very slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah,
I almost would
agree.
rather delete this whole sentence, actually. I mean, if there's
Yes,
more
I-
traffic on the road, it's harder to get out of your driveway.
yeah, I think that is the second half of the sentence bothers me, and potentially impacting property values. I'd strike that. The first part, you know.
And I'll leave it in. It just seems like it's a second order
I
effect.
actually am thinking back, the may induce traffic on Meadow and Charleston. I think that's true of all the alternatives, and I'm not sure that I saw anything, unless I'm misremembering. I don't recall there being anything in the traffic study that says that of all the alternatives, this would induce more traffic on Meadow and Charleston. Does anyone?
I don't. I definitely recall this. I can
Yeah.
picture the diagram that says that.
Yeah, me too. But the
Well-
one above that, no, right?
I agree that all of them will help. I think underpass, if you look at the traffic report, underpass will be more efficient with traffic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because underpass gets rid of the light, so
Right.
it's even more inducement.
So
But it didn't
that-
say it would induce it more. It had a better LOS. If there was inducement, then the report would have shown a worse grade, right? Because you would have had more, it's attracting more cars. And in fact, it had a better grade. So I'm not sure that that's a correct sentence.
yeah, I think that the idea is that if you improve something, you'll get traffic, but I don't think it becomes a disadvantage. I think it becomes more of a mitigating the advantage. So I'd be
I-
comfortable taking this out. But
Yeah, I think we should take it out.
I'm happy to take that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know why my video now works. I
Welcome
can't
back,
explain
Phil.
it. What?
I said, welcome back.
I can't explain it.
Sorry, I'm just doing a. Just let me do see, now I'm cleaning things up when I'm
It's okay. We'll take it.
Ah.
Okay, anybody else have any significant?
Yeah, I have a few points I'd like to sort of just, it's not just
Yeah.
an editing point.
Sure.
Under hybrid specific study areas, we have the bullet point.
Actually, Phil, hold on for just 1 second.
Sure.
Greg, did that get inserted correct? Oh, yes, it did. Okay.
It didn't really.
It's okay. The editor can clean that up. I think it's.
Okay, yeah, okay, great. Yes, what are we looking at?
There's some points here that to me seem a little, need some clarification.
Call out the section again.
This is the section on hybrid specific study areas.
Okay.
Will we need protected bike lanes? Let's see. Oh, sorry. Charleston Arrestadero project has been carefully created to keep a design capacity. What does that mean?
So, yeah, poorly written. But what it means is that there have been designs put on that road to ensure that it flows at a particular rate that makes it acceptable for bikes and peds that have been designated on that road. And
So I was on that study
Mhm.
committee, and I think what the idea was that we should not reduce the vehicular capacity during the redesign of that road.
Right.
Yeah, and under that same bullet point, we have the statement or the question, did the Hexagon traffic report consider Charleston Rastradero's intentional design? What's an intentional design?
So I think a better way to say that was that any one of the, well, really any one of the alternatives, but the hybrid solution, because I think whoever had suggested this thought that this is the most likely one because it's the cheapest. But if you put more cars onto Charleston or Rastradero, then do you need to, how does that, does all the work that we just did to that road still work? Or does it now have to be redesigned?
Well, then we should say so.
Yep. And so,
and Nadia, you've used your words.
Yep. I didn't put this in there. This was somebody else's suggestion.
Understood, but Nadia's words are very good.
Thank you. Charleston Rastradero project.
I'm going to start a new one. Should I say recent?
I would know, actually, the second sentence on there. So did the Hexagon traffic report consider Charleston Rastradero's intentional design or measured against tradition? So I think, did Hexagon traffic report consider Charleston Rastradero's intentional design? And the folks that know about Charleston Rastradero know what that means.
Don't know what intentional means.
Yeah. I've never seen that term before. Okay.
Philip, can you, and Ripon, you guys know Charleston Rastradero better than I did. My understanding is there's a certain design capacity that it was created to work on. In other words, to not have it be a huge flow of traffic and kind of keep a steady amount. And so what we're trying to capture is, did the Hexagon report consider whether the improvement of a hybrid, or in fact any of the alternatives, would create more road capacity, which would then in some ways break the design of Charleston Rastradero?
So I guess all I can speak to is that the Hexagon study did consider the Charleston Rastradero project. If that
okay, so the future capacity. So if it adds more capacity on the road, the Hexagon report assumes that the existing improvements can support that.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe so. I do know that they used the Charleston Rastradero project in their consideration. So so that should mean yes. Okay.
If we still wanted to ask it as a question correctly, even though the answer may be yes, just so that we can show to the public that we did raise the question, what would be the best way to write that sentence in traffic words that don't sound like me or...
I mean, the capacity is the same. It's maybe utilized less. So the capacity means the highest amount of the vehicular volume that it can take. After that, it will break down. So the capacity never increases. It's that if the volumes are increased, the LOS service will go down. So I'm not.
Okay, so maybe the question is, would increased volume on Charleston or Rastradero work with Charleston and Rastradero's, with the current design? Does that capture it?
The number of the volume typically is based on the network. So the equation is, unless like you were talking about the induced demand, but the volume would be on the network generation. So yeah, unless you are creating more houses or more businesses that creates more volumes, then that's what would cause additional traffic, but not because of a project that there would be additional volume that would be generated within the city.
Okay.
I think what Nadia is asking is, does the Hexagon traffic report, if there's an increase in traffic, does it affect or need changes in the Rastradero or Charleston project?
Right. So would an increase in volume on Charleston or Ostradero require modifications to the road?
Yeah.
But if it's designed to certain capacity, then the capacity cannot be increased. So that's what I'm saying, that you're reading the road.
I'm sorry, you're cutting in and out, Ripon. Can you speak a little closer to your mic?
Because I'm typing, sorry.
I mean,
I'm famous
you're
for my
saying that
typing.
it has been designed to a specific capacity. So we are not increasing the capacity. So that kind of disconnect there. That's what I'm saying.
Well, but you could have, I mean, you could induce traffic. If this is more efficient, if it's more efficient to get through Charleston or Ostradero than it is to get through as San Antonio, for example, you could have more volume. And so the question is, if that volume is now attracted there, does the design of Charleston or Ostradero, could it support increased volume?
But if it is designed to a certain capacity, after the capacity, the people will have to use other roads. They will not, say if a pipeline can only take 100 cars, when the 101st car comes in, it has to go somewhere else, right?
Right, but then the whole point is that then if you've now made it so it's more efficient and people are still trying to go that way, then you're going to have.
Road cannot bring more people, so it's going to have backlogs somewhere else along the corridor that they will have to go.
Yeah, you know, it sounds to me like the issue here is not capacity, it's level of service.
Yeah.
At the predicted volumes, and if the volumes grow beyond the predicted volumes, what does that do to the level of service?
Well,
because we could have level of service E and still be below the capacity of the road.
In writing the minority opinion for Churchill, one of the things that I did was I went back to the very first meeting where the traffic report was presented, and we actually had Billy Riggs which Kerry Templeton has since replaced his position, but he was from PTC, and he's a traffic engineer by training. So one of the things that he talked about in his early comments was that all of the traffic analysis that we've been given to date does an intersection by intersection analysis and doesn't offer us a network impact. So maybe we can put in a broad general statement somewhere of there having to be considerations on the network for all of the alternatives. Because I don't think this is just a hybrid problem. I think if there's any significant improvement that ends up attracting more traffic, if people decide to cross across in Palo Alto instead of in other places, that you need to understand the network effect. And maybe that's a more general thing. Either we can include something like that, or I'm fine removing this bullet entirely. Because honestly, we're just recommending future areas of study. And I would assume that if they're looking at traffic, part of what they have to do is look at Charleston or Ostradero. So I'm happy doing either one of those.
I think we should just take this potential out. I mean, I'm starting to conclude that when you change things, things change. And trying to prove that things don't change when you change things is going to take up all of our time.
But I think we should be cautious with this one because a lot of time and energy went into it very recently.
Right. Yeah. I think that's why it's sensitive. But the thing is, right now it's under the hybrid. And I think it's true of all the alternatives where we're impacting Charleston. And
so somewhere I don't know if we have a section somewhere on traffic and recommendations for traffic, but maybe, a network study or whatever would help.
We do have a traffic section that's coming up, Greg. It's a little further in your thing.
Oh, do I have traffic in here? Okay.
Yeah, you have a traffic study section.
Look at that. Yep, absolutely. So
we can cut out this bullet and let's make a note and we can stick it somewhere else related to that, right? And Keith, if you need to drop off, because I know you have to go to another meeting, that's totally fine. You can always let us know. Keith, did you have anything before you have to go?
Nothing.
Okay.
So I'll wait till the last minute and then just bop over.
Okay.
There's always some wasted time at the beginning of the meeting.
Gotcha.
Now I've lost track of where I was. Hybrid. Yeah, okay. Oop. We should look at if Keith is going to go, we should actually look at this section real quick, the specific study areas for the trench. The only controversial question I might have is, I think recommendation basically says we should get consultants who know trenches.
That's very true.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Absolutely true.
And I don't know where, I don't remember where it says that. As long as we're okay saying that, it is critical to select a consultant with trench experience. That's probably not controversial, but we also, we got some pushback on the, we think AECOM is wrong commentary at the last meeting. So
Well,
that's
for
why
all
I'm
we
not-
know, AECOM's going to come back and say we're experts in trenching.
They
Well, they will. You can be sure of that. Companies like
Right.
that are experts in all phases of engineering.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't
Always.
think what we've written is
Always.
necessarily controversial.
I don't think it's controversial. I think it's a very normal kind of process in construction. When a consultant tells you a certain thing, you go to the subcontractor, the person who's actually building it, and ask them, can we economize, or are there better ways to do it? So I think it's very normal to do that.
Yep.
Okay.
Keith, I didn't see you. Did you have any footnotes that we need to add that then we need to either footnote within the report or?
Oh, yes, I did not do that. Let me get that. There's some references that we need to specify.
Yeah.
And I should give you PDFs for your own personal.
Exactly, because I need to
copies.
turn that into the, give that to the editor. So I'm just going to make a note that Keith to provide footnotes.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay. And then there were sections before, questions for Caltrain, Adobe Creek analysis. Keith, I assume you wanted to keep all those, right?
Correct, and those don't change. I deleted, there was one section that I kind of folded in to try and streamline it, but still there's a lot of stuff here, but I couldn't find anything more that I really could delete without some regret.
Well, then let's keep them. And then Nadia has a question about asking Joe Trevisi.
Yeah, I think we can take that out. I think.
Yeah, I thought we could too. Okay.
And I did confirm who has the section with Joe Teresi in it.
That's well, it's not really a section. It's just we put in the agencies.
Okay, so his proper title is, hold on, I wrote it down.
Well, yeah, okay, we can fix that now. Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Can we go back up to Keith's analysis where there's one bullet point where he's talking about requiring approval of Caltrain? It sort of bothered me because everything requires approval by Caltrain.
Oh, I gotta find where it says that.
I think I'm okay reminding people because I think the public forgets. They think that we have the ability to kind of just do this, and in the trench section in particular,
It's there. And when it says because trench involves changing the elevation of track, so on and so forth. I don't mind reminding people, but I think we have to say something that says like everything else.
Sure. Okay.
I don't know where I'm looking yet. Is this section about the 1% grade? Because that seems to be standard boilerplate.
I think it's just the
language.
sentence just above that you highlighted. Any crossover track relocation, it's right above where your cursor is, right there.
Okay.
And there's another place as well.
That did work. Oh,
I mean, there's this bit with the maximum grade in the Caltrain design exemption, but that's very clear. We say that all the time. And then there's the more rapid vertical curvature. I mean, yeah.
I think we have to find a way to consolidate them all, make it clear that anything requires it. Maybe highlight some are more difficult to get than others.
Well, I think the grade, the percent
Larry,
grade
I think you
stuff
said
is
something very
important.
significant. Some Caltrain approvals will be more difficult to get than others. We ought to flag that.
I don't know why the bullets came out all wonky on your thing, because on mine there's titles of sections and then bullets, and maybe I'm looking at the wrong version. But I think that helps make it like kind of more clean the way I don't know. You can have like some black bullets and then some hollow bullets. Is that
Yeah,
right?
that's probably a style sheet difference between Google and Microsoft.
Okay, all right. No
I don't know
worries.
why these. I mean, the 2-level bullet thing is kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't think that was in Keith's original submission. That's why.
When I inserted it into the Google Docs, then I did
It might
that.
have auto bulleted for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wanted those because the solid bullets are at a different level than the hollow bullets. So
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Yeah, where it says Caltrain's preferred max grade is 1%, but grades are allowed. I don't know. That's a true statement. We
It
are
says they're allowed
requesting.
with a design exception.
Yeah, with a design exception.
Yeah,
that-
but
that-
what's it's not that Caltrain would limit you to 2%, or are they? I don't remember seeing
No,
that.
yes, you're allowed, they have said that a 2% would require a design exception.
All right. Okay. Then forget what I said.
Yeah, and there seems to be a process for that. So that's
Yes,
different.
there
It's
is.
different from some of the more loosey-goosey, we don't know if Caltrain would let us. They've
Look,
made it very clear that we won't let you, and there's a process you go through.
All right.
I mean, in
then
general,
forget what I said.
this entire section has kind of a disclaimer, which is like, there's a lot. I mean, it literally says the trench is desirable by many, but because it removes the train from view, but a trench design involves significant engineering challenges, and then whammo, right? So I think it's pretty obvious that, like, look, we're listing them for you people, and for those of you who really want to understand, but like it's not a super positive conversation. And I think that this makes it really clear that there's a lot of technical hurdles. And I don't think it's worth us getting into which ones are less of a technical hurdle or more of a technical hurdle. I think just throwing them all out there as like, these are significant challenges is fine.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Wait. Can you go back from with questions for Caltrain? The vertical curve issue is dictated. I looked at the actual Caltrain design documents. They distinguish between passenger and freight. They don't distinguish between EMU or diesel haul locomotive.
Well,
so,
what they have is kind of dated, and so the part of their process may be revisiting that. So
yeah, I know it's dated, but
I thought the bigger issue was
the reason that we are stuck with the constraints we are is that the design speed for freight is 50 miles an hour. And at 50 miles an hour, you need roughly, I did the spreadsheet on this a while ago.
Yeah.
You need roughly twice the horizontal distance, the horizontal run out than you would for passenger train at even the higher design speed. If you lower the freight train speed to 35 miles an hour, that pretty much lines up the passenger train run out distance.
So do you have a tweak to what is written, or are you okay with what he wrote? Like what?
Well, I think the first question is irrelevant.
No, I don't think it's irrelevant. I think it's important to say, like, look, literally the ability for us to contemplate certain design curves, vertical curves here is limited by 3 trains a day.
Yeah, no, I know. No, that's not the point. That's the bullet relating the second bullet. That's the second bullet we're talking about, not the first bullet. The first
but in
bullet,
tandem, 1 and 2 is saying, look at your passengers, look at your freight. Can you loosen our design curves?
But you say everything you need to in the second bullet. You don't need to say anything. The first
Okay,
bullet
so you're
doesn't add
proposing to
anything
remove
it.
the first bullet.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
if I'm a Caltrain
No,
engineer,
they're different. Yeah.
if I'm a Caltrain engineer and I'm being told that I want to get a design exception in effect, the design exception I want to get is to lower the freight train operating speed to 35 miles an hour.
Okay, how about if they say we can lower it down to 30 miles per hour? Now,
then fine, but
then passenger's a limiting factor. So I think
then passenger be the limiting factor. But at 35, they're equal.
Yep. So I'm just saying we want them to evaluate both and say, can you loosen either one of these?
Yeah, but EMU is irrelevant. That's my point. Completely irrelevant to this question. EMU versus
so you
diesel.
want to so let me get this straight, Phil. You're proposing instead of EMU acceleration, you want to say passenger acceleration?
Yeah, well, yes, but that passenger acceleration, actually acceleration is not the issue here. It's the amount of stress you can put on the loads, meaning the passengers or the freight contents.
So offer your suggestion. What do you tell me what you want?
I would strike out the first bullet entirely. And the second bullet, really the operative part is what can be done to prevent freight trains from being the limiting factor of vertical curves.
Yeah, but I think the first part of the bullet is important for policymakers. Like our design constraints are.
All right. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll accept that.
Well, but this, I mean, I get Keith's point here. Should we instead say, with updated equipment on the line, will Caltrain be able to loosen passenger train?
Okay, but
vertical?
here's the point. If I'm a passenger presumably sitting and not standing, do I experience vertical curve forces differently because there's a diesel engine in front of the train instead of being sitting in an EMU car that's self-propelled? I'm experiencing the stresses on me, such as they are, just due to the vertical curve transition.
I think the vertical curve acceleration is driven by passenger desires, but the actual slope is more driven by the capability of the engines.
And Keith, I got to say this. I'm going to pull one in here and say you're wrong. I'm sorry to say that. I know it's confrontational. I don't mean to sound wrong or harsh about it, but all that matters is you could have a locomotive on the back of the train, on the front of EMUs. The passengers experience the same forces. That's
No, I'm
what
saying
matters.
I'm talking about slope versus curvature. So
yeah, but the issue here is the transition between two different slopes. That's the issue. Is the amount of horizontal distance.
We're worried about, this is a generic question. The generic question is you have two limiting. One is the slope and one of the transitions between slopes. Both those affect both trenches and hybrids and viaducts.
Can we say that?
And what we want Caltrain to do is to revisit their constraints on both curvature and slope.
We certainly do, and I agree with you. That is completely accurate
so
and good.
So rewrite his first bullet to say what he just said.
Keith, you rewrite it, Keith.
Okay, I think Greg, can you regurgitate what I said?
Hold on, I think I'm actually going to say, loosen the. I think I can do this. Will the new electrical passenger equipment rolled out allow Caltrain to loosen the vertical curve I'm not even going to say the constraints on maximum grade?
Okay, so I'm going to say it again.
Acceleration and length.
The fact that these are EMU cars is irrelevant to this question.
So that's why I didn't say the word EMU cars in this sentence.
How about
new equipment? It's all irrelevant.
Okay.
What matters is the design speed of the train.
Okay, so can we just say will Caltrain loosen the constraints on maximum grade, maximum vertical curve acceleration, and length between vertical curves? Question mark?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Caltrain?
We could point out that at 35 miles an hour, if freight train is designed for 35 mile an hour instead of 50 mile an hour operation, then we don't have an issue of freight train, what you might say, constraining vertical curve horizontal distances.
Okay, so I think Keith Greg, the last instead of for passenger trains, put for passenger and freight. That way it's all trains. Okay, now read it again, Phil. Does that work? Can you highlight it for him, Greg, so he's not lost?
Yeah, no, I see that. But we want to make the point. I think that there's an important point in that second bullet, which is that right now we are being forced to have longer transition horizontal lengths because of freight trains operating at 15 miles an hour.
Sorry.
And we want a design exception to 35 miles an hour.
I think Keith just asked these really broadly to be able to open up a discussion. And
I know that, but you know how Caltrain gets very specific, wants to get very specific?
Okay. So, I mean, can I have the two of you technical people battle this out offline and then come back next week with your favorite bullets on what's the best way to do that? I think
I just rewrote both sentences and I think they're much less specific, but they get the point across.
Okay.
But
Wonderful.
Caltrain might say, what do you mean?
Okay.
I
So
just want to add my little piece here. It's vertical curve acceleration. I don't know what vertical acceleration is, but it's a vertical curve that they need to reduce their stringency on. The
So I
second
think
point is that when Keith did those vertical curve geometries, we cannot exceed 1.4% because there is no line of slope other than that can exceed 1.4% if we were to go 20 feet high, top of a rail at 20 feet. So it's around 1.4% that we're talking about.
So guys,
There's no
I'm going to
transition.
insist that you guys can take this technical mumbo jumbo as far as I'm concerned
okay.
offline. And I'll let you guys battle it out. The battle of the geniuses. Just come back with your favorite bullets, man. And then we'll go ahead.
Nadia, the technical mumbo jumbo has significant construction cost implications.
I totally know that that's true, Phil. I'm just trying to save us all the last half hour of the meeting, and also conscious that Keith has to leave for his
All right.
his committee meeting.
I
so
don't want
if
to
you
win by
can-
running out the clock.
No, you're not. Nobody's winning. You guys are going to take it offline and then bring it back for us. So questions for Caltrain section. I'm going to put it on the three of you to come back.
So it's me, Keith, and Greg.
Sure. And if Tony wants to join in, that's your Forrest Brown Act buddy. Whoever wants to fight about vertical curves, have at it.
I suggest a Zoom meeting.
I would like to be on that call, Phil.
All right, fine. I'll propose.
Keep in
a
mind
Zoom
the goal is simply to come up with 2 or 3 bullets for staff to have future
Yeah.
question for Caltrain. So you don't have to get it all. It doesn't have to be perfect. And have big dreams here. If you have any other questions, this would be the time to kind of suggest them relative to this, of course. Okay. Is there anything else that's
I just wanted to scroll down further to see if there's any other comments.
Yeah, on page, I have one under groundwater
Okay.
analysis bridge on, I have a comment.
groundwater analysis bridge design? Where's that?
It's
There it
further
is.
down. It's a few pages
Right
down.
here. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Where is it? Well, let's see. Did I miss something? I thought I had. Excuse me for a second. I was looking at my own PDF. Oh, maybe it's further. It's under. I'm sorry. It's under the Caltrain questions. No. I'm sorry. Yes. I'm confusing myself here. There's a section called groundwater analysis on page 21.
Yep. It's just
Starts out with the
that's where we
College
are.
Bar Trench. And then under that is a section called bridge design.
I don't know that we have that section
I
anymore.
don't see a section called. Yeah, that
That was moved further up. If you move it up at the
Possible trench design
right there.
techniques.
okay.
Exactly. And right there, the very first bullet.
Yeah, I gotta say the version that I downloaded, guys, draft F did not match whatever this is
Yeah, I'm working off the ones that were distributed for all of us in the
from today. Yeah, so
I
think
don't
it's
know.
the one version.
I saved it and I emailed it, but I'm finding this method of managing documents to be incomprehensible. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, well, let me make the comment then. There's a question which is, what is the first bullet under the section called bridge design is what is the standard deck thickness for an automobile bridge over a rail trench? The answer is it depends entirely on the span length. There is no such thing as the standard deck thickness.
Okay, but let's let them answer that. I think
All
this
right.
is significant. I'll tell you why. Mountain View is looking at their Rengstorff thing and their Rengstorff design. And one of the things they did in order to not have to dig their hybrid down as low is they actually selected a bridge design, which has, forgive my non-technical terms and notice my Latin hands here. It has these walls on the side of the bridge that look like those triangle things. What are they called? Struts, or help me with the terminology here.
Trusses, yeah.
Trusses. Thank you. It's a trestle bridge,
Truss.
right? Truss.
TRUSS.
Okay, that. And so they use that design to be able to have a really thin bridge deck. in order to not have to sink the road down significantly.
Yeah. Or alternatively, you simply run more beams.
Right. And so I think asking the questions in a very general way is fine, because
right.
then they can have that conversation, right? The whole
right,
point
then
is to
that's
highlight
fine.
that that's what we need.
Then I'll delete my comment when I send these to you with all my edits. I'll delete that
Sure.
comment. Okay.
I have a general comment as we get down to the question of the cost estimates and the criticisms of a AECOM report. It makes it sound like the whole committee, Keith, that the go down further.
Yeah, I'm trying to find, I don't know, because there's a section up here, questions about AECOM design.
Yeah,
Right.
it's because it moved. Yep.
And so there is one bullet at the end that talks. If you go to the very last bullet in this section, it asks
The section?
Further down. If you go all the way down to the end of the trench, past, you can't keep on going. Right there. This is what Larry's talking about.
Is that the section, Larry?
No, I'm going up. That one's good. Good. Let's go back up.
Yeah, it's further up. I think he's because we are looking at a different version. Keith, I guess right there, the way you start talking about AECOM.
Yeah.
A little further up.
A little down. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was up because the costs are right there.
Yeah,
Stop right there.
this section also just still seems awfully long to me, but yeah.
I thought we were going to put this into an appendix.
Well, all right. Here questions about AECOM design. It does start out mentioning it's only Keith, and that's what we think. Okay, maybe that really solves my pride. I didn't pay attention to the introductory sentence. I think we have to be careful to make it clear that the whole committee is not adopting that approach. Maybe we need a statement that the staff seems to agree with AECOM.
Yeah, so I had Ripon had raised with me, like if there was any issues that the staff had with anything in the report, that we'd kind of discuss it with you and me, Larry, and then we could bring it to the committee next week. So Ripon and Philip, I'm thinking we should, instead of our usual time that we have to kind of just do the regular agenda, we may want to have a longer meeting in case you have anything, or do you not have anything, or do you have a sense of, do we need a long meeting? I guess that's the question.
No, I agree. So we can continue after our agenda setting tomorrow.
Okay, but it's not, you don't need a lot of time. In other words, we normally only have like a half hour scheduled there. Do we need longer?
We can go over the elements and then have another meeting if need be.
Okay, all right.
Nadia, I think this Keith's thing should be in an appendix, but refer to it here.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, or having, because that way, Keith, you can have the space that you want, but we can shorten this part. But I think we'll have to, I think we can break out the part that are your specific concerns versus the kind of some of the more general things, the general questions.
Okay, so I have no problem throwing this one section, the question about the AECOM design, throw that into an appendix and cite it at this location. But I want this content in the report because I think it's very important.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Because this is basically just a recap of your September 23rd presentation.
Exactly.
Which we're already including in the appendix. So I see this as a kind of.
Oh, we are including that in the appendix.
I believe we are, but I'll double check.
Okay.
Yes, it is in the appendix because, yes, we can refer to it in the appendix. I mean, certainly that's the easiest way to do this. But if you want to have like an overlay, because your presentation was like a 5-page PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And I think it's easier to read like what you said. I think this format is easier to read than when you look at a PowerPoint, right?
Okay, so I may put a 1-page introduction and then just have the slides that I had.
Yeah.
And then we can delete this whole questions about AECOM design section from the.
Right. That way there's no confusion that this is more Keith's position, right?
Okay, I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Should I do something? Should I delete it now or is someone
no, why
gonna
don't you
do
just, can
something?
you flag it with a comment, and then that way we just remember that that's what we have to, that there's going to be a change there.
Yeah, basically I'm going to take this and put this into an introduction page before the slides. And that will help Greg try and streamline this a little. It's still
Yeah.
pretty,
Yeah.
it's a little still clunky, but
Okay, I'm gonna keep scrolling down. Should I stop scrolling down? Does someone else want to tell me when to stop scrolling?
I have one last comment. I just want to give you Joe Teresi's proper title. That's like the second to last page of this
Okay,
entire
that's
thing.
toward the bottom. I've made 3 attempts to go down and I haven't made it yet. So I'm gonna
Okay.
start scrolling
Anybody
down.
else? Phil, do you have anything? And does anybody
No,
else
I'm
have
good
anything?
for the rest of the chapter.
Anything about the underpass, traffic
okay,
studies?
I'm logging off.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks,
Bye,
Keith.
Keith.
We're
Phil,
gonna mention Charleston in our Rastford air capacity. I'm not sure how.
Phil, are you going to send out the meeting notice or arrange it?
I'll send out an email with some proposed times and we'll work something out.
Okay, sounds good. Bye.
Thanks.
Okay, so what do I say about Joe Teresi?
Joe Teresi's official title is he's a registered civil engineer.
Okay.
Are you sure it's registered, not professional?
Registered. I had him send it to
Registered.
me in an email.
All right, okay.
And then
Does
and
he have PE as part of his title?
he did not include that in the email. The only other thing he said is he was the stormwater manager for the city of Palo Alto from 1990 to 2016.
All right, okay.
So if we want to make a little footnote here, Greg, of just Joe Teresi, and then you can add, Mr. Teresi was the stormwater manager for city of Palo Alto, 1990 to 2016.
The man probably knows what he's talking about.
Probably knows something about stormwater. Okay.
Yeah.
We had a couple of good storms during that time too. Okay.
Exactly. Okay. All right. I realize that the last section that's there's a couple of sections that are dangling out there, and one of them is the recommendations and learnings, like the things that we've learned. We have 15 minutes left. I think we should save that for the next meeting. And we have to figure out where that section goes. So essentially this was that that one that is kind of like a summation of all the recommendations that we have, and then had a section on things that we learned that aren't necessarily a recommendation, but things that we think are important as people enter the next phase of analysis moving forward. Kind of these are things of wisdom that we have for you. And from a table of contents perspective, I don't know where it makes the most sense to have this. Do we want to have that at the end of the document? That's kind of a summary thing. Do we want to have that? I don't think it makes sense to have it at the beginning because frankly, it goes too deep on some things and you need them to kind of read the report to understand them. So did anybody read that? And does anyone have thoughts? It's okay if the answer is no.
I read it. I just had one comment on it, one additional add to it, which is what we learned is that we're going to be building this these separations during a time when we are in gridlock, because Caltrain might have at that point increased their trains to 12 trains per hour.
No, because they can't increase past a certain number of trains until they've built the grade separation. So that's not necessarily accurate. They can go up to, I forget how many more trains per hour, but they can't get to 12.
I thought it was 12 and they cannot go to 16, which they'd hoped for.
Tony, I think you're right. Well, the 12 was, Caltrain was proposing for, I think the secondary increase around 2020, before pandemic, of course.
Yeah, there's
2028 to
there's currently
2030.
10 trains an hour. They can go to 12 trains an hour, I believe. And then there was, and then I don't remember what happens after that. You're saying it was 16?
But 16, I think, had to do with high-speed rail.
Right. Yeah.
And the need for passing tracks.
And I'm a little skeptical. Here's my concern, Tony. I'm a little worried about forecasting what the future is going to be, particularly after this pandemic and kind of what's happening. We don't know fiscally if Caltrain's even going to be able to execute on things because now as an agency, they're having all sorts of other funding issues. We also don't know how long it takes for traffic patterns necessarily to recover. And so this, I think it might be important to say that there's some urgency, because if you try to do this, if you try to change the wings on the airplane while you're flying it, it becomes really hard. I think that's valid, but I'd be careful about sort of saying, gridlock will happen, right? That's already in the beginning of the report in some ways.
Yeah, it is in the report. I mean, it's an important thing for policymakers to understand when they evaluate alternatives, or even if they need to plan what would they do when this gridlock, I'm calling it gridlock, it's called incurable queues.
Yeah, that's in chapter 1, I believe, on
Yes,
why do we
it
need
is.
grade separations.
It's an important lesson, I think. But
Okay, I'll stick it in I'll stick a bullet in the lessons page. I
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else that we missed? Anybody have any objections to anything in the glossary or anything else?
I did some edits on the glossary. Let me see if it's just something.
You had done those a while ago. Did you do another set of edits?
Yeah, I did. I edited my own work, believe me.
Okay.
As far as I can tell, these are all sharpening the right. Oh, it's.
Can you can share your screen if you want.
All right, let me see if I can do that. Again, I'm pretty Zoom challenged.
It was down at the bottom.
Yeah, all right. Okay, can you see item 2021-01-06?
We don't see your screen yet. You have to hit the share screen button.
I did. Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Okay, so let me just scroll through. Most of these are just sharpening or clarifying the definitions.
All right, so you want to go through them, because I think you're scrolling fast.
Sure. Okay. High-speed rail is a project.
Not a plan. Okay.
Not a plan. It's a project. EMU is electrical rail cars which are coupled together, not maybe. That's what's meant by multiple unit, that they're coupled together.
Okay, so EMU. So, all right, fair enough. You'll send me this one afterwards.
I'll send it to you.
Yep.
The electrification will allow retirement of diesel passenger locomotives, except for trains running between San Jose and Gilroy.
That's actually a very contentious debate that's happening between Caltrain and the Southern County cities, so I'm not touching that one.
Well, I know, but the point is there's no plan to electrify.
So yes, there is. The South County cities believe that is coming, and there are others that believe it's not. So I don't think it's necessary for a glossary.
All right. Okay, then I'll delete this comment.
It's politically charged, regardless of whether.
Okay, I'm deleting that.
Perfect.
Let's see. The grade is the rate of.
What do we have there? Because your note blocks what it says.
The rise. It's the rate of rise or fall.
Okay.
I'm not comfortable with calling grade the rise or fall. I mean, I think you need to come up with a different, because grade usually means the
change in elevation.
Yes, change in elevation.
But we have the rise or fall of elevation. Do you want to do what instead? I took that definition off of some technical document. I don't even know where it was, but I'm fine to change it. What do you prefer? The rate of
change. It's the rate of slope change.
Yeah, but slope, then people have to define slope. So we were trying to make it really for non-mathy people and just the regular public. So that's why it says, I'm fine with the rate of rise or fall in elevation of a railroad track. A rise of 1 foot in elevation is 100 feet of track is a 1% ascending grade, right? So it tries to explain it without having to use more math terms.
It's the rate of change in elevation, but it's not grade. Can anyone else come up with what it is? It's not great. It's
I think rate of change describes it very well, Tony.
Yeah, I think the rate of change.
Oh, I
in the-
don't see it.
well,
Oh, I
He's
see.
proposing to change it, right?
I
So,
got it. I didn't see that. I'm even more hampered by technology than.
Okay, so a couple of places I have these little strikers where we had additional periods. You'll see those when I send you the doc.
okay.
A pantograph is mounted on the roof of a locomotive or EMU.
Actually, I think we can strike pantograph entirely because I don't think it appears anywhere in our document. So part of what I
That's
have to do
fine.
then is go through and remove any words that, because some of these came from, I took like a Caltrain working doc and picked their most popular words and put them in. But if they don't appear in our report, they don't really need to be in our glossary.
Well, that's
either.
very true.
Yeah.
I was trying to find out where we had a reference to the California Public Utilities Commission.
I believe we've talked about them as the section. Oh, I think there's something in there about funding, which comes under the section 190 or 130 or whatever that deals with California Public Utilities Commission. And I think also the CPUC is the one that requires that if there's 4 tracks that there must be a grade separation. So I think that those are the 2 places where it's
Okay.
mentioned. But I plan on doing a final word search when we've like amalgamated the whole thing and then
Yeah, I think
going
this is,
through.
we ought to be doing all this offline anyway. This doesn't,
Yeah,
there's nothing substantive here.
yeah, agreed.
So I'd just suggest one other addition is incurable cues or uncurable cues. I'm not sure which one it is because we'll probably have to refer to it in the doc.
You mean as an addition? Okay, that's a good
As an
one.
addition.
Okay, I'm
Do
not
we
going to
have
put
that
that
in
in
there?
my.
Is that,
I don't think so. Let me scroll up to the top.
no, it's in alphabetical order. Keep going. Unclearable would be you.
Okay, but before that, we talk about tunnel, and we have an actual mistake. A tunnel is not a tube long enough; it's deep enough.
Okay.
Okay,
I don't see unclearable cues. I'll
I
add
don't
that
see
to the glossary.
unclearable any.
Okay.
You want me to know unclearable cues?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, well, give me a second to.
Oh, it's fine, actually. I've got it in my notes. Don't
All right,
worry
that's
about it,
fine.
'cause I want to let everybody break.
All right.
Okay. I think we made really awesome progress. In theory, our next meeting is our very last meeting. So if you've got other edits and stuff, I'm going to have Phil can send me edits directly. If anybody else has a lot of grammatical edits, it doesn't sound like anybody does. For Brown Act reasons, I can have 2 more people send it to me, I think.
Okay, Nadia, do you want me to send you all the docs I've edited, or just the ones we've talked about today?
I guess you can send me all of them.
All right.
Um,
By the way, I just want to say that I'm going to apologize to Keith for that little outburst I had before. That was wrong. And I'm going to send him an email with that. He's not here to hear it, but I have to apologize to him.
okay.
No, really, I do.
No, I
It
appreciate
was
that.
uncalled for.
I appreciate that. I know you guys all mean well, and you all are very technical. So, and you're all just trying to get exactly the right words, which is, the spirit of this whole thing. So I appreciate you guys hammering that out to include in the report. Yeah, if you haven't read sections yet and you haven't had a chance to add to things, please do. And then is there any other section that I'm missing? Do we want to look at the table of contents one more time, Dave, and make sure I didn't miss any? Okay. All right. Well, with that, I think we can break, and if I have anything, I'll send you guys an email.
Okay, Nadia, I'll send you one big fat zip file.
Yay. Can't
Probably
wait.
tomorrow morning. Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. And I'm glad I got my video back.
Yes.
Just a
Thank
quick
you
question.
all.
Do we have to get the public comment on whatever we did?
I'm sorry. What was that, Ripon?
Do we need to get any public comment on what we did today?
Oh, that's a good point. I apologize. Yes, we didn't take any public comment. Thank you for anyone who was waiting with their hand up till the very end of the meeting. Roland, I'm so sorry. Thank you for waiting. We got all caught up in our excitement of editing this document.
Okay.
You can have the final word here.
Right. Roland LeBrun, you should be able to unmute and begin speaking.
Thank you, and no problem, very quick. So a couple of hours ago, the actual wording that you had on full track section was 100% on point. Essentially, that has got nothing to do with you. Now, the reference that you're looking for on full track is on the page, is in the Caltrain Engineering Standards, Chapter 7, page 29, which says Caltrain does not have and does not allow aggregate crossings where there are full tracks, passing tracks. So what that means, if they want to put full tracks across a crossing, it is their problem. They're going to have to design it, and they're going to have to pay for it. We're not going to need to spend any Measure B on that. So that's that. I don't know where they got the 72 feet from. I get 60. And then the last point is that, oh, yes. From institutional knowledge, and Larry might tell me I'm wrong here, at some point the rail committee had a policy that Palo Alto would not allow full tracks anywhere in Palo Alto. And I don't know if that ever was deleted and when that happened. And then the last point on running 12 trains or whatever, right now, they've only got environmental clearance for 6 trains, no more. They need a completely new EII if they run to more than 6 trains an hour. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for that, Roland. Okay. I think with that, then we are definitely done. Thanks, everybody, for your patience. We're almost there.
Till next week.
Bye.